Phoenix Nights. Chapter 53:30. The Heavenly Law looked at the white bones on the ground with a face full of disbelief. An arcane annihilation could actually kill a Heavenly Law? How did he do it? Looking into the distance, there was no trace of Zichen. The Heavenly Law flew forward and chased for another day, but there were still no clues. He felt that he had chased in the wrong direction, but when he wanted to turn back to chase, he had obviously missed. So he turned back to report. He has been here for 3 days. He must be a scout who came to lead the way. Then what should we do? The others might be coming soon. Let's go and kill him. Do you have the strength? Voices of conversation sounded in the dark. Zichen sat cross-legged on the peak and cultivated, so he did not hear the conversation in the dark. After killing the Heavenly Law, he sped up and fled. Worried that there would be Heavenly Laws following him in the dark, he used the teleportation Jade Talisman. After a few times, he did not know where exactly he was. He simply stayed here and began to cultivate. He stayed there for several days. Suddenly, Zichen opened his eyes and looked ahead. Someone was running towards him. Arcane annihilation? Zichen's expression changed slightly. Shouldn't it be a Heavenly Law? 2 arcane annihilation cultivators came quickly. After seeing Zichen on the peak, one of them said coldly, "Don't let him escape. Kill him!" The 2 tapped their feet and soared into the air, attacking Zichen. Zichen also snorted coldly. "You guys came quite quickly!" A stream of light flew out and went straight for the 2. Poof! Poof! As these 2 voices rang out, the 2 people who had just reached the peak of the mountain fell down once again. They were dead. The 2 youths who were talking in the dark were completely stunned when they saw this scene. "What's going on?" The 2 looked at each other and saw confusion in each other's eyes. Zichen stood on the peak. A wind blew past, and his robes fluttered in the wind. His cold gaze was looking into the distance. Someone was flying over. "That's more like it." The one flying over was a Heavenly Law. The other party glanced at the corpses on the ground, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. "Die!" He swooped down, heading straight for Zichen. Zichen's body glowed with golden light as he activated his immortal golden body and punched forward. Boom! The powerful shockwave sent Zichen flying and falling from the mountain peak. Shio! Whoosh! In the sky, streams of light overflowed like arrows, falling towards Zichen at the foot of the mountain. Boom! After landing on the ground, Zichen punched out as he retreated. Following a series of explosions, the attacks disappeared. Die! The Heavenly Law once again descended from high above and sent a palm strike towards Zichen's face. Zichen's eyes were cold as he said, "I'll send you on your way." Buzz! The stone sword appeared, and the runes on it lit up as it flew straight for Heavenly Law. Heaven-severing technique! At such a close distance, Heavenly Law did not expect Zichen to have such a terrifying attack. He had no time to dodge. Puff! The rainbow light swept past Heavenly Law's body. He was split into 2 and scattered on the ground. With a wave of his hand, Zichen recalled his opponent's Heavenly Law crystal and spirit ring. Then he sneered. It seems that this heaven-severing technique is prepared for those in the Heavenly Law realm. He flew towards the 2 people from before and took away the spoils of war. The 2 youths in the dark looked at each other once again. Zichen put away the spoils of war. Just as he raised his head, his expression suddenly changed. Several figures appeared in front of him, all of them leaping into the air. How is this possible? Zichen's expression changed drastically. He was in disbelief. He had been teleported several times, but he could not even tell where he was. How could they find him? Moreover, there were so many of them at once. There was no time for him to continue thinking. The 5 Heavenly Law had already launched an attack on him. Zichen had no choice but to flee. The 5 of them separated in the sky and surrounded Zichen. Seeing this, Zichen had no choice but to rush towards one of them. "You're courting death." The other party was furious and punched downwards. Zichen dodged and went straight for the other party. Swoosh! The heavenly law's figure descended, wanting to stop Zichen. Heaven severing technique. Right at this moment, Zichen attacked again. Hum! A rainbow light streaked past. The heavenly law only felt his vision blur before he lost consciousness. The current Zichen could no longer care about collecting the spoils of war and wanted to continue fleeing. In the sky, a powerful aura suddenly descended, like the pressure of the 9 heavens. Zichen had no choice but to take out the world annihilation bell. Clang! With a loud sound, golden ripples spread out, resisting the pressure from the sky. Zichen raised his head and looked at the 4 people in the sky. Replica world annihilation bell, you're from the Dharma spirit race? In the sky, a heavenly law suddenly spoke. Zichen gritted his teeth and said, "Cut the crap, just attack." The other party snorted coldly again. "In that case, your Dharma spirit race is going to interfere this time?" "Ah?" Zichen was stunned and said, "What do you mean? Playing dumb in front of me?" The other party sneered and walked forward step by step. At the same time, he coordinated with the other 3 people to pressure Zichen. Zichen was stunned and said, "Do you guys know me?" The moment the 4 people heard, they all sneered. "I don't care which young master of the Dharma spirit race you are. Standing here today, you're our enemy." Only then did Zichen react and hurriedly said, Misunderstanding, you guys don't know me. I don't know you guys either." "In that case, you guys aren't here to kill me either?" "Kill you?" The heavenly law in the sky said indifferently. "From the looks of it, it's you who killed many of our people." Zichen continued. "Then it's really a misunderstanding. I was cultivating here when someone suddenly came to kill me. I thought it was the pursuers." The 4 people in the sky were stunned. The heavenly law said, "You're not here for this lost world?" Zichen said, "What lost world? I've never even heard of it." "Everyone, looks like this is really a misunderstanding. How about this, you guys continue looking for that whatever place, I'll leave right away and not disturb you guys." With that, Zichen began to retreat. "Humph, we don't care if you're really stupid or pretending to be stupid. Since you know the secret, then die." With that said, the 4 people attacked at the same time. After witnessing Zichen's killing methods, they naturally would not underestimate Zichen. Zichen had no choice but to use the world annihilation bell to protect himself and then wait for an opportunity to attack. "Everyone, this is really a misunderstanding. Let's stop, okay?" Zichen, who was hiding under the light of the world annihilation bell, shouted repeatedly. "Die!" This was the response of the 4 people. Their attacks fell from the sky like a torrent. Under such circumstances, Zichen could only passively defend. "This is troublesome. I thought they were the pursuers." Zichen looked vexed. "I was wondering why those 2 idiots were only at the Dharma annihilation realm. Can't they ask clearly before attacking?" Zichen's face was full of bad luck. Great, now he couldn't even run. "Damn it, let's kill one first." Zichen tapped his foot and rushed towards one of the heavenly Dharma realm with the bell. Seeing this, the other party retreated in the air. "Go to hell." A stream of light moved forward. It was the slaughter spirit. The other party's expression changed drastically. He blocked with both hands and light appeared in front of him. Buzz! The slaughter spirit landed on the defense but did not break through. The heavenly Dharma realm was obviously stunned. "Be careful." At this moment, his companion reminded him. It was too late. Zichen's heaven-severing technique had already arrived in front of him. Swish! It directly swept past the other party's body. So strong? Looking at the heavenly Dharma realm who fell to the ground, Zichen was also stunned. He thought that it would take 2 moves to kill him. Could it be that my heaven-severing technique has improved a lot in the past few days? Zichen looked at the stone sword in his hand. Or could it be that its power has increased? Now it's so easy to kill a heavenly Dharma realm. Be careful. Suddenly, a young and tender voice sounded. Zichen sensed that there was something abnormal behind him. Before he could turn around, an attack landed on his body. Boom! A tyrannical force erupted from his back. Zichen coughed up blood and moved forward. The sound of bones shattering came from his body. Zichen, who landed on the ground, rolled a few more times before looking at the person who ambushed him. This was the fifth person on the scene. The other party's aura was even stronger than the other four. "You're still not dead?" The other party also had a look of surprise. "I, a dignified second-level Heaven Dharma realm, can't even kill you, a mere law annihilation?" Zichen gritted his teeth and stood up. But before he could speak, he coughed out a mouthful of blood. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, the pale Zichen cursed. "You're a dignified second-level Heaven Dharma realm, yet you still sneak attack. Do you have any shame?" Although he did not die, he was seriously injured. "Killing so many of us, I don't care what your background is. You must die today!" A second-level Heaven Dharma, a palm landed. Zichen summoned the World Annihilation Bell in front. The palm print landed on the World Annihilation Bell. With a loud bang, the World Annihilation Bell knocked into Zichen and flew backward. When the other three saw the situation, they pounced forward like hungry wolves, without the slightest bit of dignity and face of a powerhouse. When Zichen landed on the ground, several more bloody wounds appeared on his body. "This kid has such a powerful body." A Heaven Dharma's face revealed a look of shock. His attack previously should have chopped Zichen in half at the waist. He did not expect that it only left a bloody wound. But even so, facing everyone's besiegement, Zichen's condition also became worse and worse. "What to do? Do we just watch him get killed? Why don't I go find the Patriarch? The Patriarch is injured and isn't these people's match at all. Then what to do?" The two people's voices were filled with anxiety. "Poor work." Zichen was sent flying once more, coughing blood repeatedly. These four people joined forces to deal with Zichen alone. Zichen was no match for them at all. "Kid, I'll send you on your way." A second-level Heaven Dharma approached and punched Zichen's forehead. Zichen's body rolled a few times, and the stone sword in his hand almost fell out of his hand. He gritted his teeth and stood up, holding the stone sword tightly. "Even if I die, I will drag one down with me." His eyes were filled with madness. The stone sword exerted force again. At this moment, a ripple suddenly appeared in front of him. Following that, a light seal broke through the ripple and came out. This light seal looked like a word. The word slash. "This is the word slash." During this time, there were exclamations. Why would the word slash appear? This light seal flew directly towards Zichen and then entered the stone sword. Buzz! The stone sword began to tremble, and a powerful aura was released. At this moment, the stone sword seemed to be about to leave his hand. Zichen immediately waved his hand to slash. It was still the heaven slashing technique. Puwerk. A first-level Heaven Dharma next to him was directly split into two, and the light seal consumed less than 1/10 of its power. Zichen waved his hand and slashed again. He raised his hand and the sword fell, 3 consecutive slashes. Each slash was a heaven slashing technique. The light seal exhausted its power and disappeared from the stone sword. The remaining 3 people fell to the ground one after another, including that second-level Heaven Dharma. Zichen also exhausted his strength. His vision turned black and he fell straight down. Chapter 53:31. What the hell is going on? We don't know either? Why did the sever technique fly out? What's going on with him? We don't know either. After we went out, we saw him meditating outside. Zichen vaguely heard such a conversation. Then, his consciousness fell into a blur again. The sever technique is our foundation. Why would it come out to save an outsider? We don't know either, but the method he used seems to be very similar to the sever technique. That's impossible. Every immortal treasure is unique. How can an outsider control it? Forget it, his injuries are not light. Let's help him heal first. After an unknown period of time, Zichen opened his eyes. His spiritual sense was the first to recover, and he noticed a different aura of heaven and earth. Ah? You're awake. I'll call the Patriarch right away. A tender voice sounded. It was this voice that reminded him to be careful. Zichen turned his head and saw a travel-worn figure. He stretched his muscles and bones. The injuries he suffered back then were mostly healed. Is this the lost place? He remembered the conversation with those people during the battle. At the critical moment, something flew out and saved him. It was a light seal. The way it operated was very similar to his mountain-cutting technique. This was also the key to killing his enemies. Before Zichen could think about it carefully, a group of people walked in. The leader was a burly man with a beard. His face was even paler than Zichen, who had just woken up. It was as if he had not recovered from his serious injuries. After these people came in, they looked at Zichen curiously, as if they were looking at a rare breed. Seeing this, Zichen immediately cupped his fists at the crowd. I'm Zichen. Thank you for saving me. Everyone did not speak, still looking at Zichen. A young man popped his head out and said, Hero, this is our Patriarch. The one who saved you is the Sever technique. The Patriarch turned his head and glanced at the young man with a sharp gaze. The young man stuck out his tongue and quickly retracted his head. Zichen said again, No matter what, I still have to thank everyone. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to survive. The Patriarch asked, Do you know those people? Zichen shook his head. I don't know him. The Patriarch asked again, Why did they fight? I heard that you are from the Soul Law Alliance? Zichen smiled bitterly. I'm considered a member of the Mage Spirit Alliance. As for why we started fighting, it's all a misunderstanding. Before I came here, I was hunted down by my enemies. After several teleportations, I somehow ended up here. When I suddenly saw the murderous aura of someone approaching, I thought it was an enemy. Zichen shrugged. That's why they started fighting. The content was not much different from what the two youths had said. The Patriarch nodded. The others nodded silently, agreeing with Zichen's statement. The atmosphere fell silent. Zichen asked, I heard those people say that they were looking for a place called the Lost Land. Could it be here? Yes, their purpose is here. You blocked a disaster for us, so we should thank you. The Patriarch said sincerely. If it weren't for you, we would have been in danger this time. The Patriarch cupped his fists at Zichen. The people behind him also followed suit. Zichen hurriedly waved his hand and said, No, no, no! We're actually even. After all, those people didn't intend to let me go. Looking at Zichen's calm expression, the Patriarch asked with some doubt, Aren't you curious why the Lost Land is here? Zichen said, What does the Lost Land mean? As soon as this sentence came out, everyone was stunned. You don't know? Zichen shook his head. This is the first time I've heard of it. Everyone's eyes became more and more strange. I heard from Long Zai that the technique you used seemed to be very special. Where did you learn it? The Patriarch suddenly asked this question. Zichen was actually very curious about that light seal. At this moment, since the Patriarch was talking about this topic, he did not hide it. It's from my hometown. Where is your hometown? Everyone was curious. Zichen pointed at his feet. A very far place. I broke through the boundary and came here. When everyone heard this, their expressions changed, and some of the youths even exclaimed in surprise. To them, the other world was extremely far away. Here, there were many people who had never left the severed world. Zichen said, What exactly is that light seal that saved me before? It seems to be very compatible with my attack. That is the foundation of our existence here. The Patriarch said, It is also the foundation of the existence of the Lost Land. The Patriarch turned sideways and motioned for Zichen to come out and talk. The crowd opened up a path, and Zichen walked out. The Patriarch said, Do you feel anything? Zichen released his soul power and sensed the abnormalities between heaven and earth. After a while he said, It seems that the aura of heaven and earth is different. The Patriarch said, Yes, because this is the aura before the chaos. What do you mean? Zichen was puzzled. The so-called lost land is a place that was accidentally lost during the chaos. The patriarch pointed around. Everything here came from the moment before the chaos, including the spiritual power of heaven and earth and the laws of heaven and earth. Zichen was shocked when he heard this. In other words, this is the immortal spell world from back then? The patriarch smiled bitterly. It's rare that someone still remembers this name. Zichen smiled. In that case, you are all natives. The patriarch looked at this insensitive young man and could not help but shake his head. It seems that you really don't know the meaning of the lost land. The people around him had the same expression. This young man was indeed a hothead who knew nothing at all. Other than the spiritual power of heaven and earth being slightly different, I really can't see any difference between this place and the pure land. Zichen said truthfully. The patriarch smiled and said, Then I'll broaden your horizons today. The patriarch pointed into the distance and said, Let's talk as we walk. This time, the others did not follow, only Zichen and the patriarch. They looked at the backs of the two, and their expressions became complicated. There was anticipation, apprehension, and most of all worry. The so-called lost land is the immortal spell world before the chaos. This place still retains the aura of heaven and earth from back then. Although the laws of heaven and earth are no longer complete, there are still remnants. The patriarch turned to look at Zichen. Do you know what this means? Zichen shook his head. The patriarch said, This means that the origin of heaven and earth still exists. Zichen's expression changed. No matter when, the origin of heaven and earth was extremely precious. The patriarch continued, It is said that the formation of a pure land means the fall of an immortal, but this is only a legend. However, all the remaining lost lands in the world have the origin of heaven and earth from before the chaos, as well as an immortal treasure that suppresses the origin. Zichen's expression changed again. In that case, those people are looking for this place for that immortal treasure? The patriarch nodded. That's right. The patriarch pointed forward. This is that immortal treasure. Zichen looked up and saw a blue stone wall in front of him. This stone wall looked very ordinary, but what was truly extraordinary was the word carved in the middle of the stone wall. It was the word /. It was drawn with his fingers, but every stroke contained the sharp might of a saber or sword. At first glance, Zichen felt that countless swords appeared in front of him. They crisscrossed, and cold light shot out in all directions. Buzz! In the next moment, a blurry figure suddenly appeared among the countless swords. He seemed to be laughing, demonstrating something to the world. Buzz! In the next moment, a rainbow light broke through the sky. That was the mountain slashing technique. Just like the scene back then. Gushan! Zichen exclaimed. What did you say? The patriarch's voice alerted Zichen. Zichen looked at the word / again, and it had returned to normal. However, his mood couldn't calm down for a long time. After being here for so long, he finally found the traces left by Gushan. This proved that Gushan lived here in the past. Now it seemed that it was not a coincidence that the word / suddenly saved him. It was because he sensed a familiar aura. What did you find? The patriarch looked at Zichen's changing expression and couldn't help but ask. Zichen said, Who left this thing? The patriarch shook his head and said, We don't know. It has always been there. Zichen said, If I'm not wrong, the person who left this word and the spell are the same person. What? This time, it was the patriarch's turn to be shocked. Then he sighed. No wonder the word / appeared to save you. Zichen looked at the patriarch and said, Patriarch, may I know why you've told me such a shocking secret? What do you mean? The patriarch looked at Zichen. Zichen smiled slightly and said, Whether it's the source of heaven and earth or this immortal treasure, they are the foundation of the lost place. Patriarch, you told me everything as soon as you came, so you naturally have a purpose. Or is it a test? To see if I have the heart to snatch it? If so, you can kill me with the immortal treasure. The patriarch smiled bitterly and said, If it was before, it would be possible, but in my current state, it's impossible. The patriarch chose to save Zichen, so he was naturally aware of his combat strength. Killing a heavenly law with one sword strike, such combat strength, even with the help of the immortal treasure, he had no confidence in killing the enemy. Not to mention, the immortal treasure chose to save him. Actually, I'm just taking a gamble, because we're already at the end of the line. The Patriarch said. I'm seriously injured, and I can barely exert the combat strength of the first layer of heavenly law. If those people come again, we won't be able to protect this place. At this point, the Patriarch looked at Zichen. And the reason why I told you the secret of the lost place is because I want to make a deal with you. Everything here belongs to you, and you give our clansmen a place to live. Why me? Zichen asked. Because the immortal treasure took the initiative to save you. This was the Patriarch's explanation. In fact, it was also a helpless choice after having no way out. Chapter 53-32. Zichen shook his head and said, It's not that I don't want to help, but there's nothing I can do. You've seen my current realm. I'm only at the Dharma extermination realm. And since they could send so many heavenly Dharma last time, there will only be more next time. Zichen spread his hands helplessly. A level 2 heavenly Dharma almost took my life. If their level is higher, I can't do anything. Who knows, there might even be immortal Dharma holding down the fort. The Patriarch said. The reason why the exiled grounds are so mysterious is because immortal treasures have spirits. They can sense danger and avoid calamities in advance. Zichen was a little puzzled. Once, we were targeted by an immortal Dharma. The immortal treasure sensed it in advance and brought us away. The Patriarch said. This situation has happened many times. Therefore, you don't have to worry about immortal Dharma. You just have to resist the heavenly Dharma realm. As far as we know, if the danger is only at the heavenly Dharma realm, the immortal treasure will not take action. It doesn't matter even if you can't resist the danger. Just help us find a safe place to stay. After that, everything here will be yours. Zichen was still puzzled. This request was not high, and he believed that many people could do it. Even those people back then could easily do it. Even the Patriarch himself could do it. After all, he was a heavenly Dharma. It was easy for such an existence to find a pure land. But immediately after, the Patriarch revealed a shocking secret. Zichen was shocked when he heard it. The most precious thing in the exiled grounds was not immortal treasures, but the world origins before the chaos. Once an immortal Dharma was refined, there was a chance of advancing to the immortal spirit realm. Be it immortal Dharma or immortal spirit, they were extremely far away realms for Zichen. At that moment, Zichen's goal was only to become a heavenly Dharma. But from the Patriarch's words, Zichen guessed that there must be an immortal Dharma behind those people. It was just that the other party did not dare to approach this place rashly. Then, the Patriarch explained why he did not make a deal with those people. That was because the natives of the exiled grounds would have some aura from before the chaos. After killing and refining them, it could increase the success rate of an immortal Dharma advancing to the immortal spirit realm. Therefore, once others got their hands on them, everyone would die. Zichen suddenly understood. However, he did not immediately agree to the clan leader's request because the promise was too great. However, he also said that he would do his best to help everyone. If there's an opportunity, I'll help you for free. Since this place is related to you, you might be able to gain some enlightenment here. The clan leader did not force the issue and left in advance. Zichen stood in front of the stone wall and looked at the word behead. Countless years ago, Gushan must have stood here and carved this character with his finger. It was just a single word, but it actually retained a part of the most primitive laws of heaven and earth, which showed how powerful Gushan was. Zichen stretched out his hand and touched the character. Immediately, a sharp aura surged toward them. Back then, Gushan had left behind a wisp of his consciousness and taught Zichen the mountain chopping technique. After that, Zichen learned the heaven severing technique in the spellbreaker realm. Above heaven severing was immortal severing. Zichen had initially guessed that Gushan had created the last two moves after coming to the immortal techniques world. But when he came here and saw the word slash, he realized that it was not just that. There was also the word slash. Could it be that Gushan had been creating his own combat techniques along the way? Zichen was slightly absent-minded. Suddenly, a flash of light appeared in his palm. The word slash in front of him seemed to have sensed something and began to emit light. It was not strong, but very gentle and enveloped Zichen. A hearty laugh suddenly sounded. Zichen saw a person standing in front of him. Shan! Zichen was shocked, then rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Gushan smiled. It's me. It's really you! Zichen was completely shocked. You! He was very excited, but he did not know what to say. It's you! Gushan opened his mouth and said with a smile. I knew it must be you. You're finally here! Zichen became more and more excited. Yes, it's me. Senior, do you still remember the mountain chopping technique? Back then, you said that you would wait for me in the Immortal Techniques world. Mountain chopping technique? Gushan was slightly startled, then carefully looked at Zichen. So it's not you. Zichen looked at Gushan in confusion. Gushan sighed. It seems that you made a different choice after all. Zichen was even more confused. Senior, did you forget that I mastered the mountain chopping technique with the flowing chopping blade? Gushan nodded. There was indeed a spiritual sense left in the flowing chopping blade to protect the spiritual realm. Then, he looked at Zichen and smiled. So that's why. Zichen said. Senior, why are you here? What happened in the immortal spell realm? Why did it become like this? Gushan said. I'm still just a spiritual body with the memories of the main body. As for the immortal spell realm, there was a great turmoil in the past, and it finally became like this. What's the source of the turmoil? Zichen asked. Gods. Gods? Zichen was startled. He had never heard of this word. Are there really gods in this world? Gushan nodded. They're the source of the turmoil. Seeing that Zichen was about to ask more, Gushan said. I'm just a spiritual body, so I don't know much. It's just a coincidence that I was left here back then. Zichen's heart suddenly moved. Senior, have you been protecting this place all these years? You can say that. Gushan said. Once I sense a threat, I'll take them away. Gushan's avatar looked at Zichen. You've mastered the mountain chopping technique, so it'll be easy for you to comprehend this severing technique. And I believe that this severing technique will be even more powerful in your hands. Zichen nodded, then sat down cross-legged to comprehend. Gushan's avatar stood at the side. At this moment, if there were outsiders present, they would find that Zichen was standing there, motionless. But this was just a shell. As for the soul, it was gone. In Zichen's mind, the shadows of swords and sabers appeared. Back then, the mountain chopping technique was displayed with the flowing chopping blade. Now, both swords and sabers could be used. Combined with Zichen's comprehension of the mountain chopping technique and the heaven chopping technique, he soon discovered the mystery of this severing technique. It was not a new offensive technique, but an auxiliary technique that was close to violence. It could increase the power of the original attack by several times. Recalling the severing technique, Zichen also outlined a picture in his mind. The next moment, his soul power erupted, forming a severing character in front of him. Your comprehension is really good. Gushan's avatar exclaimed. You've discovered the mystery in such a short time. Zichen also opened his eyes at this moment. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes. So it's the condensation of soul power. No wonder it's so powerful. This was the combination of soul power and spirit power. Your comprehension is good, and your soul power is even better. Gushan said. With such a good soul power, you should put more effort into it. In this world, soul power is very important. Back then, my main body spent a long time to combine the two powers and burst out the strongest attack. Zichen's soul power was not weak to begin with. After refining the soul power of heaven and earth, it became very powerful. All this time, he had wanted to maximize his advantages to the fullest. Unfortunately, he had never had the time to comprehend it. Perhaps, this was a rare opportunity. Zichen opened his eyes and looked at the stone wall in front of him. There was confusion in his eyes. Was it a dream just now? But in the next moment, his soul power flowed and turned into a severing technique in front of him. Is it real? Zichen looked forward. Is Senior's spiritual sense really here? Zichen immediately released his soul power and landed on the stone wall, trying to communicate with Gushan's spiritual sense again. But there was no response. Zichen cupped his fists at the stone wall, then turned and left. When he returned, everyone still welcomed him warmly. It was just that everyone's face was filled with unconcealable worry. Zichen knew what they were worried about. The patriarch arranged a residence for Zichen. After Zichen returned to his residence, he began to cultivate. At the moment, his realm was too low. Even if he wanted to help everyone, he was powerless. In the blink of an eye, another 5 days passed. Zichen had been cultivating, and no one came to disturb him during this period. On the 7th day, the patriarch came to find Zichen. They're here again and are searching nearby. Zichen followed the patriarch out, and saw them at the border of the severed world. This time, there were 5 people. 2 of them are at the 2nd level of heaven law, and the remaining 3 are at the 1st level. The patriarch said with a solemn expression. At this moment, the 2 sides were only a few thousand feet apart, but they did not hear the patriarch's words. Zichen furrowed his brows. The patriarch said, "Why don't the 2 of us join forces and try to kill them?" Zichen thought for a moment and said, "How long will it take for them to find this place?" "I can't say for sure. It may be a few days, or a dozen days, or even longer." Zichen said, "Let's go back first." According to the patriarch's current realm, he was no longer a match for Zichen, so he naturally listened to Zichen. After the 2 returned, Zichen went to the stone wall. He wanted to communicate with Gushan again. His consciousness sank, and Zichen saw Gushan again. Gushan's spiritual sense looked at Zichen. "Are you here for those people?" Zichen nodded and said, "I want to help them." Gushan asked. "How?" Zichen said, "Senior, help me stall for time. After I break through, I'll naturally have a way to deal with them." "Okay." Gushan nodded and said, "But only for 3 months at most." Zichen said, "Then I'll try my best." Zichen went back and told the patriarch to pay close attention to the outside world and not disturb him unless necessary. After that, Zichen began to refine resources at full speed for cultivation. Because he had killed a few Heaven Law realm experts, Zichen could refine Heaven Law crystals, which could greatly increase his cultivation speed. Another 10 days later, Zichen successfully broke through and reached the 9th level of Annihilation Realm. Then, he swallowed the 2 pills without hesitation. He wanted to break through in one go. Time passed, and 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. The people outside were about to find this place as they continued to search. "Found it!" Suddenly, a cry of surprise sounded. In the next moment, a Heaven Law realm expert pointed at the void and a light seal fell there. "Buzz!" Chapter 53-33. In this empty land, buildings suddenly appeared one after another. The enchantment of the Lost Grounds was forcefully broken. The Lost Grounds had appeared. For a moment, screams were heard as the residents of the Lost Grounds noticed the abnormality. When the 5 heavenly laws saw this, they all sneered. "After searching for you for so long, I've finally found you." A 2nd-degree heavenly law realm warrior walked forward. The few people beside him were also very excited. According to the original agreement, after finding the Lost Grounds, the immortal treasures inside would belong to them. At this moment, everyone in the Lost Grounds had come out. They gathered together and protected the children in the middle. Although their eyes were cold, their bodies were trembling. Unlike the other Pure Lands in this severed world, most of the people were ordinary people without any cultivation. At this moment, facing everyone, it seemed that they would only be slaughtered. And for so many years, this was the first time their Lost Grounds had been breached. The people who had never seen such a scene were naturally afraid. The clan leader stood at the front, his face pale. "Good, since everyone is here, let's kill them all together, and save us the trouble of finding them one by one." The second-level heavenly law threw out a few jade bottles. "Seal their souls in here." The other 4 immediately went forward and took them, then sneered. The children were so frightened that they cried, and for a moment, there were wails. The others were in despair, their bodies trembling. Some were holding short swords, some were holding iron weapons, and some were holding wooden sticks, waiting for death to approach. This was an unequal battle. At this moment, there was suddenly a tyrannical aura coming from a building. "Oh!" The 5 of them stopped and looked in front of them in surprise. The surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth surged crazily and then gathered in a certain place. "Did someone break through?" The second-level heavenly law laughed disdainfully. "Unfortunately, he only advanced to the first level of heavenly law. He's just sending himself to death. Go, drag him out and seal his soul alone. After all, he's a big deal." Immediately, a first-level heavenly law flew forward. To deal with a mere existence who had just broken through, it was not difficult for the people present, so any one of them could take him down. As for the second-level heavenly law, he looked at the clan leader. "I'll seal his soul. The 3 of you go kill the others." "Chi!" The exiled ground suddenly lit up with a beam of light. It was like a bolt of lightning that suddenly appeared, heading straight for the Heaven Dharma realm. Such an unforeseen event caused the other party's expression to change. With a loud shout, he raised his defenses. "How dare you launch a sneak attack when you've just broken through? You're courting death!" The other party gritted his teeth and shouted, his face full of anger. The light instantly approached. It was a small sword. Pooh! The defense of the Heavenly Law realm was instantly blocked. Heavenly Law's eyes widened in disbelief as his body crashed to the ground. Such a scene caused the expressions of the remaining 4 to change as they raised their heads to look ahead. "Who is it? Come out!" That second-degree realm practitioner's expression was extremely grave as his gaze started to sweep around the surroundings, using his soul power to search. Perhaps there were other experts in the dark. The remaining 3 people approached him one after another, and then became alert. To be able to instantly kill a first-level Heaven Law expert, it was enough to show how powerful the other party was. Zichen walked over from afar. Since he had just broken through, his aura was still unstable. Air currents kept appearing around him, causing his robes to flutter. "You shouldn't have come." An indifferent voice sounded. When the 4 of them saw Zichen, their faces were filled with disbelief. "It's you?" Zichen continued to walk forward, his eyes gradually turning cold. When the rest of the people in the exiled grounds saw Zichen, they were all extremely agitated. The children who were previously frightened were even prepared to cry out in alarm. To their knowledge, Zichen was a hero who had saved them. The clan leader used a sharp gaze to stop all of this. He looked at Zichen. Zichen said, "Bring everyone back." The clan leader nodded and signaled for everyone to quickly retreat. There was bound to be a huge battle here. Just the aftermath of a battle between Heaven Law realm experts was something they could not withstand. As for whether Zichen alone was a match for these 4 people, he was not worried at all. Back then, when Zichen had not broken through, he was already able to kill a first-degree realm practitioner. Now that he had become a Heaven Law expert, he believed that his battle strength would only be stronger. Acting all mysterious, "Kill him." The second-degree realm practitioner waved his hand. "I don't believe that a mere first-degree realm practitioner like you can go against the heavens." The other 3 immediately charged towards Zichen. 2 first-degree realm practitioners and 1 second-degree realm practitioner. As for the second-degree realm practitioner who seemed to be the leader, he remained standing there. The aura around the 3 of them surged violently. They directly used their full strength. "Die!" Zichen's indifferent voice rang, like a curse from the Grim Reaper. His eyes were only fixed on the second-degree realm practitioner in the air. As for the 2 first-degree realm practitioners, he didn't even bother to look at them. Within the same realm, he was not afraid of anyone. Pft! Pft! The massacre spirit turned into a ray of light and flashed beside the 2 of them. Following that, the 2 of them landed on the ground. Dead? Zichen took out the stone sword and slashed forward. His target was the second-degree realm. One! A sharp ray shot up into the sky. Pfft! Without any surprise, the second-degree realm practitioner's body was directly split into two. When the second-degree realm leader saw this scene, his face was filled with shock. Was this really someone who had just entered the heavenly law realm? He turned and ran. Zichen looked at the other party's fleeing figure and snorted coldly. Following that, a slash word gathered in front of him. Then it merged into the stone sword. The stone sword exploded with a glaring ray, and its aura rose sharply. Lines of divine patterns appeared on the surface. Slash the heavens! The stone sword slashed down, and with the slash word, a glaring sword mark appeared in the sky. With Zichen as the starting point, the second-degree realm as the ending point. Pfft! It completely pierced through. At this moment, the clan leader led everyone and retreated a short distance before the battle ended. All of them stood there in a daze, their eyes filled with disbelief. Zichen looked at the direction of the stone wall. Pfft! Pfft! The surrounding airflow started to flow again. The lost grounds which had just appeared was once again hidden in the dark. With the crisis averted, everyone gathered around. The children looked at Zichen with admiration. Zichen smiled at everyone. He really couldn't enjoy this kind of enthusiasm. After greeting the clan leader, he went to the stone wall. Gu Shan's doppelganger told Zichen that every time he brought everyone out, the consumption was huge and there were some special conditions. So only when the immortal technique appeared, he could take action. This actually explained why he didn't stop the array when he saw it shatter. If I bring them out of here, what will happen? Zichen suddenly asked. They will die, Gashan said. Zichen was stunned. Why? Because the immortal technique has already locked this area. Once someone tries to escape, they will naturally die. That's because every native has more or less the aura from before the upheaval. Gashan's doppelganger said. The lost grounds are not easy to find, and every time one is found, it is something that the immortal technique must obtain. Then what should we do? If that was the case, he couldn't leave by himself. It's very simple. Wait for the immortal technique to appear. Once he appears, I can mobilize a part of the heavenly law and take all of you away. When we reach a safe area, what you want to do is up to you. Hearing this, Zichen smiled bitterly. What ability do I have to force an immortal technique to appear? It should be known that he had just reached the heavenly law realm. He thought that when he reached this realm, he could fly freely, but he didn't expect to encounter an immortal technique. For the current Zichen, this was definitely an unreachable existence. You'd better deal with those corpses first. If they are marked in advance, it will be troublesome. Under the reminder of Gu Shan's spiritual sense, Zichen reacted and quickly turned back. The feeling of flying once again made him feel much better. Don't touch these corpses, be careful not to be contaminated with their aura. Some people were looking at the corpses. Zichen saw this and quickly reminded them. The clan leader also waved his hand and said, Go back and cultivate. Everyone dispersed, but there were some who were reluctant to leave. They naturally knew what realm the dead people were in, and what value they had. Because they stayed in the severed grounds, their corpses were intact. After Zichen put them away one by one, he waved his hand and cleaned up all the bloodstains on the ground. Then, he took the corpses and left the severed grounds. Outside, Zichen took out the corpses. Under the support of the wasteland's laws, they turned into bones. Then, Zichen used his own strength to crush these bones, leaving no traces. Zichen put away the remaining heavenly law crystals, including their interspatial rings. After returning, Zichen went to the stone wall again. Next, he would combine his own strength and create a simple combat technique that belonged to him. He had already seen the power of the severing word art. Overlaying the severing heaven technique, its power increased by at least 3 times. Zichen had a huge advantage in terms of soul power. It was obviously not easy to create his own combat technique. However, he could combine his original combat technique and integrate his soul power into it, greatly increasing its original power. for example, the spirit of massacre, and the world annihilation bell. In the following time, Zichen stayed by the stone wall and studied the offensive techniques. Sometimes, he would communicate with Gu Shan's doppelganger. Even though the other party was just a spiritual body, his knowledge was much wider than Zichen. Sometimes, he would give some suggestions to Zichen. The clan leader and the rest did not know about the existence of Gu Shan's doppelganger. Another 10 days passed. A second wave of people appeared here. Among them, the highest realm was only at the second-degree realm. This time, Zichen took the initiative to kill and get rid of everyone. Then, Zichen followed Gu Shan's doppelganger's instructions and walked around. As expected, he met other people. Immortal techniques could only sense a rough area and were not accurate. Therefore, some people with lower realms were needed to find an accurate direction. Zichen went out for 5 days and cleaned up a large area before returning. When he returned, Zichen was surprised to find that the position of the entrance had changed. The clan leader told Zichen that the severed grounds had always been moving, but it was relatively slow. Chapter 53-34. There was an old man standing on the mountain peak. He looked forward with a gloomy expression. There was no aura released from his body, but the surrounding space was twisting involuntarily. This was caused by his power being too strong. "Master!" A young man flew over and stood behind the old man. The old man said without turning his head, "In the past 2 months, we have lost more than 30 heavenly laws." "Huh!" The young man was taken aback. "Last time, we set up a trap and injured that person. Could it be that he has recovered from his injuries?" The old man shook his head and said, "I have personally investigated. It is impossible for his injuries to recover so quickly. Perhaps there are other powerhouses in the exiled grounds. Go and investigate personally and see what is going on. Should I call senior brother back?" "Not for the time being. This matter is of great importance. Once the news is leaked and other immortal techniques are attracted, we will be in big trouble." "Yes." The young man flew into the distance. At this moment, Zichen had reaped the life of the last heavenly law. These people clearly had immortal techniques behind them, but the heavenly laws they sent out were only at stage 2. This made Zichen a little puzzled, but it was also a good thing for him. If their realm was higher, it would be difficult for him to deal with them. His powerful soul power extended out, and the range had already exceeded 30,000 feet. Zichen's expression changed slightly. In his perception, a young man appeared. In this place, everyone appeared in groups of 3 to 5. It was extremely rare to see someone acting alone like the other party. As his perception fell, Zichen actually sensed a trace of dangerous aura from the other party. So he immediately changed direction. During this time, his soul power still fell on the other party, sensing the young man's movements. After refining that heaven and earth soul power, Zichen's own soul power had undergone a qualitative change. At the current realm of heavenly laws, the highest range that their soul power could extend was only 100,000 feet. Zichen's range was more than 3 times that of theirs. Therefore, he could see the young man's movements. The other party came to the place where Zichen was previously. When he saw the bones on the ground, his eyes immediately became sharp. Marcus's eyes swept around like cold lightning with killing intent. Who did this? He released his soul power, but didn't sense anything out of the ordinary. At this moment, Zichen was 30,000 feet away from him. When he heard this roar, he knew that the two of them were in cahoots. Next, Zichen walked in the opposite direction. He wanted to clean up all the people here. After killing for so long, the number of heavenly laws that had died was already high. He did not believe that the other party would have endless heavenly laws by his side. Marcus found that no matter where he went, he was always one step behind. It was as if someone had been secretly monitoring him. Everything had been taken care of before he arrived. 10 days later, Marcus withdrew. He gained nothing. Another dozen or so heavenly laws died. Zichen also turned back. His recent battles had given him a new idea of how to use his soul power. After returning, Zichen went to the stone wall. After a brief conversation with Gushan's avatar, he began to comprehend soul power. Marcus turned back and met his master at the peak of the mountain. Master, I suspect that there is a second powerhouse in the exiled grounds. His realm is at least above the 5th stage. The old man shook his head. It's impossible for there to be someone above the 5th stage of the heavenly law realm. Once someone of this realm makes a move, I will definitely sense it, Marcus said. But if it's the 4th stage, it's impossible to escape my perception. Call the others back first. We'll move together. When Marcus sent out the signal and everyone returned, they found that the number of people was less than 1/5 of the original number. There were only a dozen or so people left. This made the old man's expression extremely ugly. If he went to find someone now, it would be troublesome. He could only look at Marcus and exhort. Be careful. Marcus nodded and set off with the last of his men. 3 days later, the patriarch came to the stone wall and told Zichen that someone else had appeared outside. Zichen stayed in front of the stone wall for an hour before leaving. Walking out of the ripples, Zichen's soul power extended. There was a heavenly law 10,000 feet away. Just as Zichen discovered the other party, that person also sensed Zichen's aura and could not help but be stunned. Zichen turned around and ran like a stream of light. Found one! This heavenly law shouted excitedly, and then flew over in the air. His robes fluttered in the wind, and his expression was incomparably excited. Zichen did not stop and flew out for 100,000 feet. Quickly stop him! He definitely knows where the exiled grounds are! That heavenly law shouted excitedly. Because he could not catch up to Zichen, he sent out a message. For a moment, the people in the vicinity all rushed over. Zichen's soul power completely extended out at this moment, probing the abnormalities within 30,000 feet. There were 4 people in the 2nd stage of the heavenly law realm, and the rest were all in the 1st stage. Suddenly, Zichen's pupils constricted as he discovered that young man. The other party was shockingly a 4th stage heavenly law realm. It was just that at this moment, he was the furthest away from Zichen. Let's start here then. Zichen suddenly stopped and turned his head to look at the person chasing behind. Brat, why aren't you running anymore? The other party laughed coldly to no end and directly rushed towards Zichen. At this moment, in his perception, the other companions were already on the way over. This kind of merit, he was naturally unwilling to share it with everyone. Hence, he attacked at full speed. Zichen moved. He just extended 2 fingers and slashed forward. Chi! A streak of fierce light appeared from his fingertips, carrying extraordinary power, heading straight into the distance. In the sky, a silk line was drawn, leaving behind a trace that did not dissipate for a long time. Pullwork! That extremely excited first-level heavenly law realm's body suddenly froze in the air, a pair of eyes also becoming wide saucers. A thought instantly flashed across his mind. Could it be that the people who died a few days ago were all killed by the other party? Unfortunately, he already had no time to think. The exiled land's rules descended, instantly taking away his flesh and life. The remaining skeletons scattered on the ground following that. Zichen did not stop and walked straight towards the 2nd heavenly law realm. That heavenly law realm sensed the abnormality and began to retreat. One! The slaughter spirit appeared and went straight for the 2nd first-level heavenly law realm. The other party had a look of horror on his face. Facing the incoming light, he propped up several defenses around his body. Pullwork! But it was useless. Wherever the slaughter spirit passed, the defenses were all shattered. Following that, this first-level heavenly law realm was directly pierced through the head. Swoosh! The slaughter spirit turned back and circled around Zichen. After accumulating power, it charged towards the 3rd existence. All first-level heavenly law realm, retreat. 2nd level heavenly law realm, kill! Marcus's voice rang out. After he sensed the abnormality, his face revealed deep shock. In his guess, to be able to kill so many heavenly law realm experts silently, it must be in existence above the 5th level heavenly law realm. But he did not expect to encounter a first-level Heavenly Law Realm expert. Could there be more than one? He flew forward quickly. The other second-level Heavenly Law Realm experts also charged towards Zichen. They were very close to Zichen, so they were the first to arrive. At this moment, Zichen took out the stone sword and activated the power of the stone sword. Chi! A heaven-cleaving technique shot towards the sky. A second-level Heavenly Law Realm expert fell head-on. Following that, Zichen attacked continuously. Several attacks streaked across the sky, and those second-level Heavenly Law Realm experts who were not close to him all fell to the ground and died. During this period, the Slaughter Spirit was still reaping the lives of the first-level Heavenly Law Realm experts. When Marcus reached the front and saw the scattered skeletons, he was completely dumbfounded. "It's you, so it's you!" Zichen's response was another heaven-cleaving technique. But this time, he directly used the cleaving technique. The stone sword trembled as if it was about to fly out of his hand. Chi! Light shot up to the sky. It went straight for Marcus. Feeling the power of this sword, Marcus's face changed drastically. He clenched his fists and crossed them in front of him. A strong light appeared in front of him. Boom! The heaven-cleaving technique landed on the strong light, and the strong light instantly shattered. A powerful energy engulfed Marcus. Marcus's face was filled with shock as he kept retreating backwards. There was a difference of several realms between the two of them. He had not expected the other party's battle power to be so strong. Swoosh! Just at this moment, the Slaughter Spirit turned back and like a ray of light, it charged towards Marcus. Marcus had no time to evade and hurriedly took out a weapon to block it. Crack! A clear sound rang and the weapon in Marcus's hand had already been split into two. The Slaughter Spirit's energy had already been dissolved and returned to Zichen's side. Just as Marcus thought that the other party's attack had ended, a bell rang. Dang! The clear sound was mixed with an impact on the soul. His soul power started to vibrate, as if it was about to collapse. A destructive ripple came from afar and swept towards Marcus. Suffering from the World Extermination Bell's energy impact, his body in the sky was already on the verge of collapse. Die! A cold voice suddenly sounded from Marcus's side. It was Zichen. He did not know when, but he had already arrived beside him. Golden light shone around his body as the immortal golden body was activated. He punched forward. This was the immortal fist, and it carried a vast power. At the same time, a ray of soul power flew out from Zichen's sea of consciousness and covered his fist. This caused the power of his punch to increase again. Boom! As if thunder had exploded in the sky, golden ripples fluctuated and spread out in all directions. Marcus's bones cracked and his body was smashed into the distance. Blood splattered in midair. Die! Zichen stood in the air, his eyes extremely cold. The Slaughter Spirit moved forward again, this time to reap lives. Suddenly, Zichen's face changed drastically and he immediately retreated. In a few flashes, he was 100 feet away. Suddenly, a huge palm appeared where he had been standing. It grabbed at the air, and even the air seemed to explode. Zichen's face changed drastically and he exclaimed, "Immortal technique!" The Slaughter Spirit that was charging towards Marcus also turned back in an instant. Sure enough, another palm appeared out of thin air and wanted to catch the Slaughter Spirit. If it were not for Zichen's quick reaction, the Slaughter Spirit would have been caught in the other party's hand. Run! Chapter 53-35. Zichen did not give Marcus, who was in the 4th degree realm, the slightest time to react. His whole set of attacks almost took his opponent's life. The premise was that the immortal technique did not appear. Trying to escape? An old voice rang in the sky. Buzz! The sky shook, and a huge palm fell from above. It covered a radius of several hundred feet. Zichen only felt that he was locked in by a terrifying pressure. His body seemed to have fallen into a swamp, and it was difficult to move. He shouted and looked up at the sky. Golden light shone around his body, and the immortal golden body was fully activated. He clenched his fists and crossed them, and a golden shield appeared above his head. At the same time, a wisp of soul power was integrated into it to enhance the defense. After doing all this, he could only resign himself to fate. After all, it was an immortal technique. He had no ability to resist or even defend. The other party was an existence that was as high as the sky. Boom! The palm print fell with an imposing manner, and Zichen's protection shattered in an instant. Following that, a tyrannical force poured into Zichen's body. It was like the Milky Way pouring down from the ninth heaven. Zichen's bones cracked. Even if it was the immortal golden body, it was still completely shattered at this moment. The powerful force still existed, and it hit Zichen's body, causing him to retreat continuously. Zichen's first feeling was that he was not dead. As he retreated, he took out a jade talisman and directly triggered it. Buzz! A teleportation array appeared forcefully. But Zichen did not step in. Instead, he forcefully controlled his body and slid back for a distance. The teleportation array in front was directly crushed by a big hand. Rumbles sounded. Zichen secretly thought that it was a close call. His body was enveloped by the second teleportation array, and he disappeared under the waves of ripples. He ran away? The pale Marcus stood up and saw the scene of Zichen disappearing. He was slightly stunned and felt that it was unbelievable. At this moment, he suddenly sensed a tyrannical aura fluctuation 10,000 feet away. It's Master! I knew it, he won't escape so easily! Marcus was extremely excited. With a rumble, there was no movement. Marcus immediately waved his hand and said, Help me, let's go over and take a look. In the distance, there were still some first-layer heavenly layers who hadn't died. At this moment, they rushed over and took Marcus away. There were only traces of blood and a huge handprint. There were no bones or corpses. Not dead? Marcus was taken aback. How is that possible? One had to know that the one who attacked was his master. Even though there was a long distance between them, his power was definitely not something that a mere first-level heavenly law could block. Following that, rumbling sounds could be heard in several other places. Marcus chased after him, but apart from the blood, he found nothing else. Half a day later, he returned and saw his master on the mountain peak. His master's expression was extremely ugly. His gloomy expression was filled with boundless killing intent. Marcus still wanted to ask about that guy, but when he saw his master's expression, he didn't dare to open his mouth. The result was obvious. Let's go. In the end, the old man let out a sigh. Marcus was taken aback. Leave? We've already alerted the enemy, and the exiled grounds have disappeared. The old man turned and left in an extremely depressed mood. Damn little thing, if this old man meets him, I'll definitely grind his bones to dust. Zichen had been teleported countless times along the way. Anyway, he didn't have much on him, but he had a lot of escaped jade talismans. The immortal technique was indeed terrifying, attacking him from a distance many times. If not for Zichen's caution, he would have died long ago. However, after dozens of teleportations, Zichen couldn't take it anymore. His injuries were very serious, almost to the point of life-threatening, and he needed to heal as soon as possible. Seeing a messy stone forest, Zichen immediately flashed in. Zichen wasn't surprised by this scene. Before leaving the exiled grounds, he had communicated with Gushan's clone. Zichen used that fourth-layer heavenly law as bait to lure the immortal technique out of hiding, and used the exiled grounds as an excuse to leave. As for whether the other party would fall for it or not, it was actually not important. If it appeared, the exiled grounds would disappear. If it didn't appear, it would die. As for the others, they would definitely be killed by Zichen. At that time, no one could use the immortal technique, and they wouldn't be able to find the exiled grounds. The sky was dark, the blood moon rose into the sky, and the surroundings were cold. Zichen felt that his aura was fading faster. After a day, his injuries didn't recover much. At night, Zichen's soul power spread out, enveloping a radius of 100,000 feet. Originally, his soul power could extend to 30,000 feet away, but now, he could only use 1/3 of his original strength. A few ancestral beasts appeared on the nearby mountains. As if sensing Zichen's strength, they didn't approach. Only when the sky brightened did they leave. Zichen closed his eyes and sat cross-legged, withdrawing his soul power to 50,000 feet. He had already refined about 1/3 of the energy of a heavenly law crystal, but his injuries didn't improve significantly. Even his physical body hadn't recovered. There seemed to be a strange force between the broken bones, preventing them from healing. It was the residual power of the immortal technique. Another 2 days passed, and his injuries still didn't improve. Fortunately, it didn't worsen. Zichen opened his eyes, and his expression gradually turned gloomy. Damn it! The remnants of the immortal technique's power in his body prevented his injuries from recovering. At that moment, he could barely unleash the strength of a first-level heavenly law expert. Buzz! Zichen activated his immortal true body. Golden light flickered, but it was clearly intermittent. A moment later, Zichen withdrew his power and said with a bitter smile, "At this rate, I'm afraid it'll take several years to expel the remnant power of the immortal technique." Zichen complained, but he clearly didn't know how lucky he was. If it were anyone else, just this remnant power was enough to kill them. Not only did Zichen not die, but he could also slowly expel this power. This was actually very impressive. Continuing to stay here was already a waste of time, so Zichen planned to find another way. After walking out of the stone forest, Zichen looked around. There was no one here, nor were there any other signs. All 4 directions looked the same, so he could only choose a random direction. He glanced at the north. Back then, Almai had asked him to go to the north. Let's go in this direction. Zichen headed north. He traveled during the day and healed at night, but the effect was still not obvious. 5 days passed, and Zichen still didn't find anything. Apart from the ancestral beast, there was nothing else. Morning of the 6th day. Zichen was just about to hurry when he suddenly turned his head to look behind him. A gust of wind blew over. As the wind advanced, its power grew stronger and stronger, finally turning into a tornado with a vast momentum. Zichen's soul power immediately extended over. The sudden appearance of such a storm was clearly abnormal. But just as his soul power came into contact with the storm, it was as if someone had cut off his soul power with a knife. A stabbing pain came. Zichen's expression couldn't help but change. He was actually unable to use his soul power to investigate. With his current injuries, he didn't dare to approach. Zichen avoided the storm and continued forward. Another 2 days passed, and Zichen finally saw traces of humans. This made a hint of joy appear on his face. He could finally ask for directions. It was 2 people traveling together. Both of them looked very young. One was wearing a green robe, the other was wearing a black robe. Zichen approached the 2 and said, "May I ask?" Without waiting for Zichen to finish, the green-robed young man smiled and said, "No problem, we agree." This made Zichen stunned, somewhat at a loss. The black-robed young man, on the other hand, looked at Zichen indifferently. No need to be surprised. After all, one more person is one more force. The green-robed young man stepped forward and said, "I'm Douglas, he's Joshua." "What's your name?" "Zichen." Douglas smiled and said, "I see that your strength isn't high, only level 1 of law destruction, right? According to the rules, we have to listen to Joshua. After all, he's level 2 of law destruction." Currently, Zichen's realm was indeed only level 1 of law destruction. The black-robed young man, Joshua, looked at Zichen and said, "You 2 listen to my commands from now on. I can guarantee that we'll definitely be able to find the immortal spirit fragment." Immortal spirit fragment? Zichen was taken aback again. Douglas patted Zichen's shoulder and said, "No need to be so dramatic. This isn't a secret anymore. Many people have come recently." Zichen was still very confused, but he didn't show it. He just laughed. "Who do you think is so powerful that they can actually kill an immortal?" Douglas exclaimed. I've never even seen an immortal before. I can't believe such a legendary existence died just like that. Zichen was also shocked. An immortal is dead? Douglas said. Of course. Otherwise, why would there be immortal spirit fragments scattered? Then, he sighed again. Immortals are almost godlike existences in this wasteland, but they can actually die. Asterisk 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 in a restaurant. At a table by the window. 3 people were drinking wine. One of them had a long scar on his face. As for the other 2, they seemed to be slightly older. No matter how much wine you drink, the taste is still not good. At this moment, 2 people walked in. One was an old man, and the other was a young man. Find a private room. After the old man came in, he said indifferently. At this moment, the young man suddenly said, Master. The old man turned his head in confusion. He saw the young man stretch out his hand and quietly point in a certain direction. The old man followed the young man's finger and saw the 3 people. His gaze fell on the scarred man. The old man was stunned at first, then he laughed sinisterly. Little thing, so you're here. He walked straight forward. This old man thought you died in some corner. I didn't expect you to be here. After he approached, he looked at the scarred man. What, you think this old man won't recognize you just because you have a scar on your face? The scarred man raised his head and looked at the old man in front of him. You know me? Little thing, you dare to pretend in front of this old man? The old man's face was full of disdain. Believe it or not, this old man will slap you to death. He released his aura. In an instant, cries of surprise rang out. An immortal technique. The others in the restaurant looked at the old man in shock. Although this level was not a legendary existence like immortals, he was definitely a godlike figure. The scarred man did not speak. Facing the aura of this immortal technique, he was even more indifferent. He looked at the 2 people next to him. One of the middle-aged men said excitedly, It's him, it must be him, he's here. The other person also nodded and said, He's finally here. The scarred man smiled slightly, then looked at the old man. Thank you for telling me this news. After saying that, he slapped down. Boom! The entire restaurant shook. The old man's body exploded with a bang. It was just a slap. He just killed an immortal technique. Chapter 53-36. How do we find the immortal soul fragment? Zichen joined the 2 and asked the question in his heart. The reason why he stayed was because he felt that the immortal soul fragment might help him recover. After all, Zichen had just broken into the first level of Heaven Law, and before he could enjoy the power of Heaven Law, he was beaten back to his original state. Joshua, who was at the 2nd level of annihilation, said, Look for the storm, the immortal soul fragment is in the storm. What? Zichen was dumbfounded. The 2 noticed that Zichen's expression was strange, and Douglas asked in surprise, You've seen it before? Zichen nodded and said, I saw it before, but its power was too terrifying, and I was scared away. You! The 2 looked at Zichen, not knowing what to say. He was scared away by the storm. How weak was this Zichen? He was at least at the 1st level of annihilation, right? Zichen was also annoyed. If he knew that there was an immortal soul fragment in the storm, he would have checked it out no matter what. Joshua said, If the immortal soul fragment hasn't been found, it will definitely appear again. Yes, Zichen, do you remember the way? Let's go back and find it immediately. Zichen nodded again. Next, the 3 of them went together to search for opportunities. When they turned back, Zichen sensed that something was wrong. The number of ancestral beasts had obviously increased along the way. Even during the day, they could be seen everywhere. Get out of the way, or die! Douglas saw a group of ancestral beasts blocking the way. The highest realm among them was only around the 9th level of spirit cultivation. As Douglas released his aura, the group of ancestral beasts became restless. But they didn't retreat. You guard Zichen, I'll deal with these bastards. Douglas coldly snorted and rushed forward. Joshua said, There will definitely be more danger, you have to be careful, because at the crucial moment, I may not be able to protect you. Got it. Zichen nodded. Dogus stepped forward and attacked aggressively. After killing the strongest of the ancestral beasts, the other ancestral beasts dispersed in a hubbub. Look, there's a storm ahead! After slaying the ancestral beast, Dogus suddenly pointed up ahead and yelled in excitement. At the end of his field of vision, a huge tornado appeared. Let's go, there's a celestial fragment there! Joshua shouted and immediately stepped forward. Zichen followed him. The ancestral beasts that had fled earlier all turned around and charged toward the storm. Zichen released his soul power once more. The instant it came into contact with the storm, he felt a piercing pain once more. It was the same as the storm he encountered last time. Was there really a celestial spirit fragment here? At this moment, Zichen still had doubts in his heart. With a rumbling sound, the three were now less than 1 kilometer away from the storm. A murderous intent appeared and locked onto Zichen. Zichen's eyes narrowed slightly. Just at this moment, the storm in front suddenly disappeared. When the storm appeared, there were no signs at all. It disappeared immediately, similarly without any signs. This made the few of them stunned. Swoosh! The 4th level of law annihilation turned into a flowing light and moved forward. Apparently, he wanted to see if there was anything left behind. Zichen's soul power had already extended out, but there was nothing there. Hurry up and leave! Joshua gave a low shout, indicating for the 3 of them to run first. The 4th level of law annihilation turned back at this moment. He looked at Zichen and the other 2. The 3 of you follow me? Your fortune is here. Next, I'll bring the few of you to take a look at the big shots. The 3 of them exchanged glances. Sensing the murderous intent around the other party, Joshua finally nodded his head. Based on the 3 of their current abilities, even if they risked their lives, it was impossible for them to defeat a 4th level of law annihilation. Following that, the 3 of them followed the other party and headed towards a certain direction. Very soon, they met a group of people. There were about 40 over people in this group. The 4th level of law annihilation immediately went forward and bowed towards one of them with a respectful expression, not knowing what he was saying. He's actually so respectful. What realm is that person at? A shocked expression appeared on Dogus's face. Zichen said, he's at least at the 8th level of law annihilation. His soul power had just swept past. So strong? A bitter smile immediately appeared on Dogus's face. How can we gain anything by staying with such an existence? Joshua's expression was also very ugly. He originally came here to look for opportunities, but he didn't expect to meet this group of people. Everyone, we're from Titan City. This time, we're only here for one thing. If everyone cooperates, after this matter is completed, there will definitely be a handsome reward. The 8th level of law annihilation looked at the crowd. Don't worry. We're not here for the immortal essence fragment, so we won't fight with you. The surroundings immediately went into an uproar. If it's not for the immortal essence fragment, then what is it for? Dogus couldn't help but be stunned. Joshua shook his head. Could it be that there's something more important than the immortal essence fragment? Zichen also frowned slightly. These are your rewards. The 8th level of law annihilation waved his hand and instantly, pieces of law annihilation crystal flew out, all of which were of the 2nd level. Next, all of you work harder. 1 piece for each of them. Such a large sum of money made Dogus even more amazed. After that, the 8th level of law annihilation brought everyone to the next place. When they arrived at the destination, there were already hundreds of people gathered there. The 8th level of law annihilation bowed respectfully towards the person in front. This action caused the crowd to go into an uproar again. Even the 8th level of law annihilation needs to bow respectfully. Could the other party be a heaven law realm cultivator? Dogus's eyes widened as his face was filled with disbelief. He was only at the 1st level of law annihilation realm, and to him, heaven law was absolutely a high and mighty figure. But following that, a shocking scene happened again. A young man flew over from the horizon. He was dressed in a white robe and was extraordinarily handsome. When he neared that existence which was suspected to be Heaven Law immediately bowed towards the other party. "What are all of you in a daze for? Aren't you going to pay your respects to young master?" Heaven Law turned his head back in dissatisfaction. The others then realized in hindsight and bowed as well. The young man waved his hand and said, "No need to stand on ceremony." Following that, he lowered his voice and said to Heaven Law, "Let's wait for the others and move together when the time comes." Not long after, a few more teams of 100 people arrived at the scene. Among these people, the lowest realm was at the first level of Law Annihilation realm, while the highest was the leader, who was at the Heaven Law realm. When they arrived, they immediately bowed towards the young man. "Titan City, I remember now. He must be Titan City's young lord, Mo Yunling." Dogus grabbed Zichen's arm and said agitatedly, "It must be him, that fourth-level Heaven Law realm Mo Yunling." This time, even Joshua had a shocked expression on his face. There was even a hint of respect on his face. Zichen asked, "Is he very famous?" "A high and mighty fourth-level Heaven Law realm, do you think he's famous or not?" Dogus said agitatedly. "Moreover, he's a fourth-level Heaven Law realm with Titan bloodline. His battle strength is comparable to a sixth-level Heaven Law realm. My goodness, I really didn't expect that I, Dogus, could meet such a big shot." He grabbed Zichen's arm tightly. "This time, we didn't lose out at all. Working for such a big shot, we've made a huge profit." Zichen's reaction was very calm. He took another look at that young man. But his injuries were not light, and his soul power was also damaged, hence he did not dare to release his soul power on his own accord. When the number of people in the team neared 1,000, the young man immediately waved his hand and said, "Let's go. Everyone, follow me." Everyone was divided into their original teams again. The leader of each team was at the Heaven Law realm. Not long after advancing, a piece of news quietly spread out. These people's true goal was to find the ancient technique fragment. Ancient technique fragment, what's that? Looking at the mysterious Dogus, Zichen was a little puzzled. He seemed to have heard of it somewhere before. Dogus lowered his voice and said agitatedly, "The fragment of the ancient technique of the world." Zichen's expression changed slightly. He finally remembered. Back then, Gushan's clone said that the self-created combat technique was the most suitable for him and also the strongest. Only the ancient technique could suppress it. Chapter 53-37. We're so lucky this time. We're so lucky! That's Mo Yunling. We're actually lucky enough to work for him. Even if we don't get paid, it's fine. Along the way, Dogus was very excited and kept muttering Mo Yunling's name. Zichen was thinking about the ancient technique fragment. Who was Gushan? He was the strongest person in the Saint Spirit domain back then. A legend of his generation. Even if Zichen became the next strongest person and reached the height of Gushan back then, he still admired Gushan. The power of the technique he created was naturally extraordinary. However, the other party still said that the ancient technique could suppress it. Then how powerful was the ancient technique? No wonder the other party had set up such a big formation. If they're really here for the ancient technique fragment, it's normal that they don't want the celestial spirit fragment. Joshua also sighed. Because there are many celestial spirit fragments. Their family might have some, but the ancient technique fragment might be the only one in the entire wasteland. He was not as obsessed as Dogus. At this moment, his focus was on the ancient technique fragment. The others in the team obviously knew about it too. They all looked very excited. They naturally did not expect to get a rare item like the ancient technique fragment. However, if they could take a few looks from afar, they would have the capital to brag about it. 2 hours later, they encountered a huge storm. "Everyone, enter immediately!" Everyone rushed toward the storm. Rumbling sounds resounded in their ears. The storm's aura was vast and mighty, connecting heaven and earth. During this time, all kinds of screams were heard. These were all inexperienced people who took the initiative to release their soul power. "Be careful!" This storm is very unusual, Zichen whispered. Including the one in front of them, Zichen had already seen 3 storms. The one in front was undoubtedly the biggest and most dangerous one. Even if he did not release his perception, he still felt the danger. Everyone approached the storm and stopped one after another. Their eyes were filled with vigilance. Don't just stand there. Everyone, go in! The powerhouses from Titan City shouted loudly. Tian Fa also took the opportunity to wave his sleeve. A hurricane appeared behind him and went straight for the people in front. All of you, attack with all your strength. Just cut this storm. This team of more than 100 people involuntarily moved forward under the impact of the hurricane. At such a close distance, they were sucked into the storm. During this time, there were several screams as a few people were directly torn to shreds by the storm. Zichen and the other 2 were also swept in. Rumbling sounds rang in their ears as the hurricane swept over them. It was as if sharp blades were slicing their bodies, causing them to feel a piercing pain. Cries of alarm rang out everywhere. Some people released their soul force, but they were immediately cut off. It seems that soul power can't be used here either. In this hurricane, it was very difficult to stand firm. Occasionally, there would be some rocks mixed in with the hurricane, like hidden weapons. His field of vision was also affected here. He could only see things a few jang away. Fortunately, with the wind supporting their bodies, everyone was able to fly in the air. Does this mean that I have the strength of a heavenly law? Dogus laughed excitedly. Be careful! Zichen reminded him and grabbed dogs. A stream of light appeared in the hurricane and headed straight for them. Shwa! Before he could get close, the stream of light disappeared. This made Zichen slightly stunned. In the next moment, the light appeared in front of them. Before the 3 of them could react, they were engulfed by the light. In their field of vision, there was a bright light, and the rumbling sound in their ears disappeared. What happened? Dogus shouted with a hint of panic in his voice. Zichen looked in front of him. The hurricane had disappeared, and they had arrived in a strange space. There was only light here. Infinite light. However, it was not dazzling. It was very gentle, like water. It was also filled with extremely rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth. With a thought, Zichen's spiritual energy entered his body and began to circulate in his body. The remaining immortal law power in his body and meridians were also activated at this moment. This discovery made Zichen extremely excited. If he stayed here for a long time, his injuries might be able to recover. Is this the immortal spirit space? Joshua's voice sounded. It must be. Since there's an incomplete immortal spirit space here, there must be immortal spirit fragments. We are going to be rich. Zichen, Dogus, let's hurry up and look. There must be immortal spirit fragments here. Because this is the immortal spirit space. Then, Joshua added, however, let's not separate. Be careful not to get lost. Right at this moment, there was a sudden surge of enormous power. Like a sharp blade, it forced its way into the immortal spirit space and split it into 2. Zichen and the other 2 were once again in the midst of the hurricane. However, the hurricane had already dried up, and the 3 fell to the ground one after another. I saw the immortal spirit space! Someone exclaimed excitedly. Me too! Someone else matched. At this moment, Heavenly Law's voice sounded. The rest of you, continue on your way. Those who have a mark on them, stay. Everyone turned their heads in confusion and looked around. They saw that some people were emitting a faint light, like a mark. They were left behind by the immortal spirit space. Zichen and the other 2 also had light emitting from their bodies. Naturally, they had to stay as well. Let's go. These are the lucky ones to be favored by the immortal spirit fragments. Next, we will go to another place to search for treasures. When the others heard this, they all looked regretful and envious. Zichen took a look. There were only 9 people. And the highest realm was only the 2nd realm. This made him wonder if only those with low realms could enter the immortal spirit space. Your luck is indeed not bad. Next, I will bring you to see the young master. One of them said. You lucky ones will be directly led by the young master to search for treasures. When those who were about to leave heard this, their expressions became more envious. However, they did not get the young master's favor and could only search for the next hurricane. We can finally follow young Master Moyun. Dogs's face was filled with anticipation. Let's go. I will bring you to see the young master. That fourth realm who brought Zichin and the other two over led the 9 people in another direction. Zichin looked at the 8 people beside him. Their expressions were very excited. Zichin, however, was frowning. He kept feeling that something was wrong. Right, have you seen the immortal spirit fragment? After walking for a while, the other party suddenly asked. Everyone was stunned and then shook their heads. After I went in, I only saw a vast expanse of white. Then I came back. Me too. I didn't see anything. Could the immortal spirit fragment be in there? It's such a pity. If I had known, I would have stayed in there longer. Everyone was talking at the same time. The 4th level Dharma destroyer who was walking in front smiled and said, Don't worry. I will know if you have gained anything from it. As soon as he said that, a light suddenly appeared. It went straight for the 9 people behind. At this moment, the few of them were in a state of excitement and did not notice this scene. They were scheming against the unsuspecting. Pft. 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 In the blink of an eye, 5 people had fallen. They were dead. The remaining 4 people included Zichin and the other 2. There was a long bloody wound on Joshua's shoulder. He looked at the 4th level realm. What are you doing? Dogs's face had already turned pale. Zichin pulled the 2 of them on the left and right. It was his timely action that saved their lives. But because his injuries had not recovered, his speed was not fast enough, which caused Joshua to be injured. The other was a 2nd level realm. His reaction was undoubtedly fast, but he also lost an arm. What am I doing? The 4th level Dharma destroyer laughed. You stole the immortal essence fragment, so I naturally want to get it back. No, we didn't see anything. Dog shouted. The other party sneered. I said you took it, so you took it. Zichin said coldly. Looks like there is no ancient technique fragment at all. You are here for the immortal essence fragment. The so-called ancient technique fragment is just to dispel everyone's doubts. Right from the start, you had no intention to let anyone hear off. The 4th level realm's face had a smear of surprise. How do you know? Because the immortal essence fragment is too precious. Even if it's a large family, they don't have such a deep foundation that they can ignore it. Zichin said in a low voice. And your actions are just to get a group of free labor. The 4th level realm smiled. You're very smart so you can be the last to die. That's impossible. Dog still could not believe it. Swoosh! Murderous intent flashed in the 4th level realm's eyes. The light appeared again and charged towards the 3 of them. Let's go. Zichin pulled the 2 of them again and retreated a few steps. His pace was not fast and there were even pauses in the process. But he perfectly avoided the 4th level realm's attack. The man with the broken arm fell to the ground and died. The 4th level realm's expression changed slightly as he looked at Zichin in astonishment. Little thing, I've underestimated you. Zichin said. Friend, we didn't get the immortal essence fragment. Let's part here and mind our own business, okay? When the 4th level realm heard this, he gave a disdainful look. Just based on you, are you worthy to be my friend? As he spoke, he waved his hand and attacked the 3 of them. Retreat. This time Zichin let go of the 2 of them. The 2 of them knew the severity of the situation and immediately retreated. Today, none of you can think of leaving. The 4th level realm's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he charged forward. Zichin said, Friend, are you really going to make a move? Impudent, are you worthy to be? Before he could finish his sentence, a ray of cold light appeared beside Zichin and charged towards the 4th level realm. Even though he was injured and only had the power of a 1st level realm, but if Zichin wanted to kill him, the 4th level realm was not enough. Pfft. The massacre spirit directly pierced through the 4th level realm's forehead. The other party's expression froze in that instant as his eyes widened in disbelief. Dogus and Joshua were also stunned. A fourth-level realm died just like that. Let's go. The fourth-level realm fell to the ground and turned into a pile of bones. Zichen turned around and left. Joshua hesitated. Those things. There were several corpses here, and one of them was a fourth-level realm. Under the sunlight, the annihilation crystal shone brightly. No, let's go, Zichen said decisively. Because Zichen had displayed his absolute power, the two of them had no objections. Impossible, how could this be? Dogus still found it hard to believe as he muttered. Why does Mo Yunling want to kill us? He's Titan City's young master, why is he so famous? It definitely has nothing to do with him. It must be that fourth-level realm who came up with this idea. Zichen took a look at him but didn't say anything to attack him. Just at this moment, a ray of light appeared from behind. Trying to escape after killing someone? An indifferent voice rang from behind the three of them. When Dogus saw that, he immediately said, Sir, this is a misunderstanding. The other party wants to kill us and said that this was Mo Yunling's young master's orders. We're just trying to protect ourselves. Will sir please? Before he could finish his words, he was forcefully pulled away by Zichen. Boom! Chapter 53-38. Dogus, who was pulled away by Zichen, was completely stunned. He originally thought that the actions of that fourth-stage realm cultivator were his own wishes and couldn't possibly represent Mo Yunling. But this person didn't listen to his explanation at all, and just killed him. Now it seemed that this wasn't the case. How dare you steal the immortal essence fragment? You're courting death! Murderous intent swirled in the other party's eyes. This was a fifth-stage realm cultivator who struck out with his palm. To the three of them, it was undoubtedly a huge threat. Go! Zichen pushed Dogus. According to his current realm, facing this palm would only result in death. Zichen went up personally. Bam! The palm print landed on his chest, and Zichen's body flew backwards. When he landed on the ground, blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, but he didn't die. He turned around and ran. Go quickly! As he ran, Zichen shouted at the two of them. Dogus and Joshua, whose faces were filled with grief, stared so hard that their eyes were about to pop out. Zichen, a first-stage realm cultivator, took a hit from the other party but acted as though nothing had happened. Even that fifth-stage realm cultivator was stunned. Apparently, this was his first time encountering such a situation. Go! Zichen waved his hand continuously, and not only did his injuries not worsen, they even got better. When the fifth-stage realm cultivator's energy entered Zichen's body and forcefully attacked his body, it also shook a portion of the remaining energy of the immortal technique. This was something that Zichen didn't expect. Originally he only wanted to save Dogus. Interesting, let's see how long you can hold on. The fifth-stage realm cultivator laughed coldly and chased after him. Zichen, run quickly! Dogus shouted. Don't worry about me, he can't kill me, Zichen replied. This angered the fifth-stage realm cultivator so much that his face turned green. Can't kill you, right? He swiftly closed in and struck a palm on Zichen's back. A tyrannical energy entered Zichen's body and shook a portion of the immortal technique's energy. Although it was just a little bit, it was better than Zichen refining it bit by bit. As the immortal dermic powers left the wound, the speed at which Zichen's power circulated increased noticeably. He flew out, lying flat on the ground like a dog eating feces. He cut a sorry figure. But after getting up, he could still continue running. This made the two people in front of him look as if they had seen a ghost. Just like that, Zichen ran and shouted from behind. He even said that the other party couldn't do anything to him. It wasn't clear if he was deliberately trying to provoke them. Fifth-stage realm cultivators followed behind as they struck out palm after palm. However, as he continued to attack, Zichen's injuries did not worsen. Instead, they became lighter and lighter. Buzz! Suddenly, a powerful aura surged out from Zichen's body. The second level of the Destroyer realm. In the distance, Douglas and Joshua's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. It was already a miracle that he didn't die, but he actually broke through. That works too. The two of them exchanged glances. They had never seen a person who could raise his cultivation by taking a beating. What's the situation? Fifth stage realm Miafa was also astonished. Is this kid a masochist? Not only is he not injured, he's even raising his cultivation. After going into a daze for 3 breaths, Sichin took the opportunity to run far away. I don't care what ability you little thing have, you must die today. The energy around him went berserk and his speed was raised to the maximum. Like a ray of light, he appeared behind Sichin. This time he didn't strike out with his palm, but with his blade. With a long blade in his hand, he slashed towards the back of Zichen's neck. Kid, I'll see if you can still break through without your head. Zichen seemed to have grown eyes on the back of his head as he rolled on the ground, avoiding the other party's blade. After getting up, Zichen looked at that 5th stage realm cultivator. You're being insensible, why didn't you follow the routine? 5th stage realm cultivator was flustered. I'll follow your mother's routine. The blade slashed down once again. He was already flustered and exasperated. Zichen shook his head. If you don't follow the routine, then you can go and die. The massacre spirit appeared and with a speed faster than the blade, it charged towards the opponent's consciousness. In such a short distance, even if the opponent was 5th stage realm, he could forget about evading the massacre spirit's attack. Pfft. The massacre spirit passed through his mind. The opponent's body stiffened and his eyes were filled with disbelief. Following that, his body started to stagger and finally fell onto the ground. A gust of wind blew past and the corpse turned into a pile of bones. Zichen went forward and picked up the spoils of war. The sound of footsteps came from behind them. Both Douglas and Joshua were looking at Zichen in shock. Zichen, how did you do it? Douglas asked. Zichen looked at him. If I say that I cultivate a kind of cultivation method, the more serious the injury, the higher the probability of breaking through, would you believe me? Douglas nodded. Believe, of course I believe. I've seen it with my own eyes. Zichen was rendered speechless. He wondered how such a childish fellow had managed to cultivate to such a high level. Let's go, someone else is here. Zichen took a look at the sky and within the range of his soul power, another enforcer had appeared. The 3 of them increased their speed to escape, but not long later, the opponent caught up with them. It was still the same old rule. Zichen let the 2 of them run first while he stayed behind to cover their backs. This time, it was a 7th stage enforcer realm existence, and this made the 2 of them apprehensive. But they had not expected Zichen to break through to the 3rd stage realm after taking 3 punches from the opponent. Damn, what kind of cultivation method is this? I want to learn it too. Douglas' eyes widened. If this situation continues, Zichen will be able to reach the Heaven Law realm in just a few days. Joshua looked at Douglas. Let's go quickly, don't be careless. Not long later, they saw a group of people. The 2 of them were stunned. Those people's expressions also changed. They were those people from before, and the leader was in the Heaven Law realm. Why are you here? An 8th stage enforcer asked. The 2 of them were stunned, not knowing how to respond. Why are you still in a daze? Hurry up and run. Their goal is the immortal essence fragment. Whether you get it or not, they will kill you. Zichen's voice rang from behind. He was already at the 4th stage of the enforcer realm. As for the pursuers, they had already been killed. What? A commotion was heard from the front. What nonsense are you spouting? That 8th stage enforcer reprimanded. Zichen strode forward and said, Previously, there were 9 of us who entered the immortal essence space, but what awaited us was not an opportunity but a massacre. The remaining 6 of us are already dead. There is no ancient technique fragment. Their goal is the immortal essence fragment. And looking for you guys is just to find a bunch of cannon fodder. In the end, none of you will survive. How dare you! The 8th stage enforcer flew into a rage and charged forward. Dog, how dare you slander us? You're courting death. The other party slapped down with his palm. Facing this palm, Zichen did not dodge at all and just blocked it. Under the circumstances of the difference of 4 stages, Zichen spat out a mouthful of blood. But he did not collapse. After wiping away the blood on the corner of his mouth, he said coldly, "Whether I'm spouting nonsense or not, all of you are very clear. Let me ask you, how precious is the immortal essence fragment? Why wouldn't you want it?" Zichen looked at those people again. Everyone who enters the immortal essence space has the possibility of obtaining the immortal essence fragment, so they would rather kill by mistake than let it go. Those who stay can only die. You're spouting nonsense. The other party flew into a rage and slapped down a second time. Zichen spat out a second mouthful of blood but stood up again. "If I hadn't been injured, I wouldn't have made it here alive." The other party slapped down a third time. Those people who were watching from afar were all stunned. Because they saw Zichen coughing up blood, but he was not seriously injured. Even his aura did not change at all. Towards what Zichen said, they believed some of it. "Of course, our original intention was to escape, but we didn't expect to run in a panic and end up here." Zichen stood up again. "Since we've met, then it's fate, so I'll leave you with a piece of advice." After that, Zichen cupped his fists towards the crowd. "Everyone, farewell. Trying to leave?" The 8th stage realm was enraged as he came in front of Zichen again and slapped Zichen onto the ground. But it was useless. Zichen's physical body was so strong that even though he could not display his original power, but he could at least protect his life. Everyone was stunned. He was just too resistant to attacks. No wonder he could hold on until now. This time, almost everyone believed in Zichen's words. The people Mo Yunling had brought with him all had furious looks on their faces. But the 8th stage realm was still unable to kill him. From the looks of it, Zichen was about to escape. "Little thief, you're spouting nonsense to smear us and you think you can just leave like that?" That heaven law realm finally couldn't take it anymore. "Leave your life behind!" He slapped out a palm in the air. 1. The palm print gathered in the sky and the entire sky darkened. Amidst the cries of alarm, the palm print landed on Zichen's head as expected. An uproar broke out. This time, he would definitely lose his life. No matter how capable he was, he couldn't possibly block a strike from a heaven law realm expert. But in the next moment, a scene that left everyone dumbfounded appeared. On the ground, in a 5-finger-sized pit, Zichen stood up shakily. "You guys really want to silence me?" "What?" Heaven Law's expression changed. The others were all stunned. "Die!" Heaven Law slapped out again, and the palm print on the ground deepened by several centimeters. "Enough!" Zichen's voice rang out again. He was actually infuriated from being beaten up. This made everyone not know whether to laugh or cry. "You're not dead yet, shouldn't you feel lucky? You're actually angry." The next moment, a scene that shocked everyone happened. Zichen, who stood up, had an extremely cold gaze. "I don't care how ruthless you guys from Titan City are, but you shouldn't have targeted me time and time again. Because I'm not to be trifled with." The moment his voice fell, Zichen's aura erupted. As if he had obtained some kind of treasure opportunity, his realm started to soar. 5th stage realm, 6th stage realm, 7th stage realm, 8th stage realm, 9th stage realm. His realm broke through to the 9th stage of annihilation realm in an extremely short period of time. Sensing that tyrannical aura, everyone was stunned. Dogus was even more shocked. "What cultivation method is this? It's actually so powerful." Only to see from afar, Zichen raised his hand. The next moment, he clenched his fist and attacked. Boom! Amidst the roar, Heaven Law flew out. Chapter 53-39. Looking at the Heaven Law realm who had fallen to the ground and turned into bones, everyone was stunned. Earlier, the other party had failed to injure Zichen with several attacks. In the end, he was punched back by Zichen and lost his life. Of course, the most shocking thing was that Zichen had broken through several realms in a short period of time. Among the crowd, those who came from Titan City were also stunned. One of the 8th stage realm immediately shot out a beam of light towards the sky. Boom! Light exploded. Strong light shot out in all directions. This was an obvious signal from the clan. Zichen's realm had recovered to the 9th stage realm, so it was too easy to kill these people. Once the thought arose, everyone would die. But he did not continue to kill but waited quietly for the other party's reinforcements to arrive. He slowly walked towards the pile of bones and picked up a Heaven Law crystal as well as the other party's spirit ring. When he raised his head again, there were already people flying over. In this wasteland, the weakest who could fly in the air was Heaven Law. What happened? The Heaven Law realm flew over and questioned in the air. An 8th stage realm immediately cupped his fists and said, "He came here to create trouble and even killed Lord C." What? The Heaven Law realm's expression changed slightly, and looked at Zichen below. After sensing the other party's realm, his eyes were filled with disbelief. You people from Titan City are really shameless. Zichen looked at that Heaven Law realm and said disdainfully, "Coming here to deceive people to be cannon fodder, could it be that you're notorious and can't deceive anyone else in your own city? You're courting death." The other party was instantly enraged and struck out with his palm. The sky darkened and a palm print came crashing down. Zichen faced this attack and did not move at all. Boom! The palm print came crashing down and a deep 5-finger print appeared on the ground. You're flying into a rage out of humiliation? Zichen's voice rang from the deep pit, and it still sounded full of energy. Die! The Heaven Law realm's expression changed slightly, and he struck out repeatedly. At the same time, the other Heaven Law realm cultivators also arrived, and when they saw this scene, they also struck out. Boom! 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 With a series of rumbling sounds, one palm print after another descended from the sky and landed on the ground. From the moment Zichen was smashed into the ground, he never came out again. The crater on the ground was getting bigger and bigger. The 5 palm imprints also formed 5 deep ravines due to the continuous rumbling. Smoke and dust filled the air, forming a shockwave that forced the nearby people to continuously retreat. Dao Gus looked up into the sky. There were a total of 7 Heaven Dharma realm cultivators working together to attack. His face gradually paled, and his eyes were filled with worry. Joshua frowned. He found it hard to believe that Zichen could survive such a violent attack. Finally, the series of explosions ended. The tornado-like dust also dissipated. Everyone looked ahead, at the place where the gully was. The surroundings were silent. Is he dead? It was at this moment that a palm suddenly appeared from the side. Zichen, who was covered in blood, crawled out. His hair was disheveled, and his body was covered in blood. He looked very miserable. However, everyone still exclaimed in surprise. In the face of so many attacks, he was actually still alive. This was too unbelievable. Zichen raised his head and looked at the Heaven Dharma. You guys are too weak. This was not contempt, but a sigh from the bottom of his heart. There were still remnants of immortal Dharma power in his body. He originally wanted to use everyone's attacks to shake this power. Now, it seemed that it was unlikely. Since you guys are incapable, I'll send you on your way. When everyone heard this, the anger on their faces intensified. A new round of attacks erupted. Amidst countless rumbling sounds, Zichen was once again smashed into the ground. At this moment, Mo Yunling's voice suddenly sounded. Everyone, retreat! His voice was very urgent. Unfortunately, the reminder was still a little too late. Whoosh! A stream of light broke through the smoke and dust and flew towards the group of Heaven Dharma realm cultivators. Puff! 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 This was the result of Zichen's recent cultivation. He could unleash the power of heaven and earth soul power to the greatest extent. Even if he was only at the 9th level of Dharma annihilation, it was not difficult to kill some first-level Heaven Dharma cultivators. Wherever the stream of light passed, Heaven Dharma cultivators fell to the ground and turned into bones. When the smoke and dust dissipated, Zichen stood below. In the sky, only Mo Yunling was left. Everyone was stunned by Zichen's methods. "You've got guts!" Mo Yunling gritted his teeth. Zichen looked up at the other party. "You've got guts too. You actually dared to scheme against so many people. Do you really think this is Titan City? I don't know what you're talking about, but you'll have to pay with your life for killing my people." Mo Yunling's eyes were filled with killing intent. Zichen hooked his finger at the other party. "Come down if you have the ability. You're courting death." Mo Yunling swooped down and struck a palm at Zichen. Zichen stood in place. His expression seemed disdainful, but his heart was filled with vigilance. He clenched his right fist, fully activating his immortal true body, and met the attack with his fist. Boom! Tyrannical power surged, and Zichen was sent flying. This time, he was sent flying for 200 feet. Mo Yunling said coldly, "Your physical body is not bad, but your realm is too low. I'll give you a chance now. Kneel down and admit your mistake." Zichen sneered. "You." Golden light shone as the immortal golden body was fully activated. Infinite golden light shone. He threw a punch. The powerful aura seemed to be accompanied by an ancient aura. Mo Yunling said disdainfully, "I told you, your realm is too low." He shouted and clenched his right fist. His entire arm suddenly became much thicker, as if a tyrannical force was injected into it. Boom! With another punch, Zichen was forcefully knocked over. He rolled on the ground for a few dozen times before he could stabilize his body. "You don't know what's good for you." A hint of disdain flashed at the corner of his mouth. "You think you're qualified to challenge my Titan bloodline?" Zichen got up and suddenly coughed out a mouthful of blood. The blood fell to the ground and sizzled as if there was some residual power. He wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth and laughed. "Is this all the Titan bloodline can do?" Mo Yunling narrowed his eyes. He tapped his foot and charged toward Zichen like a meteorite. Zichen shouted and crossed his arms to block. Boom! Amid the booming sound, Zichen's body slid backward. But this time, Mo Yunling did not intend to let Zichen go. He chased after him and threw punches after punches. Zichen faced Mo Yunling's storm-like attacks and had no room to fight back. Both Dogus and Joshua wore nervous and worried looks on their faces. After all, the difference in their realms was too big. The others around them were even more incredulous. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed that a mere level 9 Dharma destroyer could be so powerful. Boom! Mo Yunling's last punch landed, and Zichen flew 1,000 feet before he fell to the ground. His aura had clearly become weaker. But in the eyes of the others, it was already a miracle that Zichen was still alive. Mo Yunling did not continue to attack. Instead, he looked coldly at Zichen. Zichen staggered to his feet, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. "I only used 30% of my strength, and you can't take it any more?" Mo Yunling laughed mockingly. There was an uproar. Everyone realized that Mo Yunling had not used his full strength. It made sense. Mo Yunling, who had the Titan bloodline, was so powerful. How could he not kill a level 9 Dharma destroyer? Mo Yunling pointed a finger at his feet. "I'll give you a chance to live. Kneel at my feet, kiss my toes, and acknowledge me as your master. Not only will I let you live, but I'll also keep you by my side." As soon as he said this, everyone looked at Zichen. Dogus looked angry. "Kill him if you want. Why do you have to humiliate him? He killed so many of my people for no reason. So what if I humiliate him?" Mo Yunling laughed coldly. "I'm already being merciful by letting him live today. And if he's willing, he can be my dog from now on. As his master, I'll take care of him." Dogus said angrily, "This started because your people wronged us. They said we stole the immortal essence fragment, and wanted to kill us." Zichen was just protecting himself. Mo Yunling said, "My people won't wrongly accuse others. Since he said you stole it, you must have stolen it." He looked at Dogus. "He has the right to be my dog. As for the two of you, you don't even have the right to be my dogs. Once I've dealt with him, it'll be your turn to die. You. Dogus used to worship Mo Yunling, but now, he only felt disgusted when he looked at Mo Yunling. Kill me? You think you can? Zichen looked at Mo Yunling. He was not in a good state at the moment. There were several forces of energy lurking in his body. If not for his strong physical body suppressing these forces, they would have exploded long ago. Mo Yunling laughed coldly. You're really ignorant. Do you know the characteristics of the Titan clan's power? Zichen replied coldly. I think it should be the same as your people, sinister and cunning. Mo Yunling said angrily. You don't know what's good for you. I'll give you one more chance to be my dog. Tell me your choice. Zichen said indifferently. Even if you're willing to be my dog, I won't take you. Dogs like you aren't loyal. Mo Yunling was thoroughly enraged. He looked at Zichen and snapped his fingers. Explode. Boom! A force erupted from Zichen's body. This force seemed to want to destroy Zichen's body. Pfft! Zichen coughed up blood again. When the blood fell to the ground, it corroded a large hole in the ground. Mo Yunling's attack had damaged Zichen's meridians and body, but it had also shaken the last remnants of immortal magic power. There was no trace of immortal magic power left on Zichen's wounds. Zichen's body swayed. He looked like he was about to collapse. If I'm not mistaken, your meridians have been destroyed by me, and your life force has been extinguished. Don't hold on any longer. Fall. Mo Yunling smiled smugly and confidently. This is the characteristic of the Titan clan's power. Concealment, eruption. When he finished, he laughed uproariously. But in the next moment, his laughter faded. Zichen, who had been incomparably weak a moment ago, was now bursting with energy again. His injuries were rapidly healing, and he soon reached his previous peak. Then, buzz! He broke through again. Chapter 5340. His injuries healed in an instant, and he broke through another realm. And it was a major realm. Heavenly Dharma. For many people, this realm would be difficult to cross in their entire life. At this moment, the people outside were all stunned. They saw Zichen go from level 4 of Dharma annihilation to this realm with their own eyes. More importantly, it was less than 4 hours. Dogus and Joshua were petrified. The two of them saw Zichen go from level 1 of Dharma annihilation to level 1 of Heavenly Dharma. There were no obstacles during this period. Oh, you broke through. Mo Yunling's eyes flashed with surprise. That's interesting. Looks like you'll be a good dog. Zichen felt the strong aura in his body. At this moment, his injuries were completely healed, and he had reached his peak state. However, there was still some power of the immortal technique left in his body. However, this power had left his wounds and existed in Zichen's body and meridians. For Zichen, this would not be a new problem, but would be a help instead. Once he refined this remaining power for his own use, it would be of great benefit to Zichen. Right now, it was a very good opportunity. He extended his finger and waved it at Mo Yunling, his eyes full of disdain. You don't know what's good for you. I only used 30% of my power earlier. In the face of provocation, Mo Yunling's face darkened. Zichen made another provocative gesture. I didn't even use 1/10 of my power earlier. However, you used 1/3 of it. That's all you've got. What I said earlier still stands. You're not fit to be my dog. Other than your loyalty, your strength isn't enough. Alright, let's see how arrogant you can be. Mo Yunling turned into a stream of light and continued to charge at Zichen. Your strength didn't increase, so don't blame me for not going easy on you. Zichen's indifferent voice sounded, and the golden light around him shone again. This time, the immortal real body had a trace of ancient intent and was extremely powerful. A punch came down like the arrival of the sun, and strong light shone in all directions. Mo Yunling felt the aura of this punch, and his expression changed immediately. He had to forcibly increase his strength halfway through. Boom! Another collision. Zichen stood in his original spot and did not move, while Mo Yunling's body slid backwards. This was the first time such a situation had occurred since the start of their battle. One had to know that even now, there was still a difference of several levels between the two of them. Good, good, you have guts. Mo Yunling's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Then don't blame me for being impolite. His aura was completely berserk, and his body was surrounded by rings of light. Layers of chi waves rolled out, and the surrounding area was suddenly filled with smoke and dust. The people in the distance could only retreat again. Mo Yunling's aura had more than doubled compared to before. This is only 80% of my strength. Die! The fist whistled down, carrying with it a terrifying aura. Zichen resisted with his immortal golden body. Boom! Tyrannical fluctuations spread out in all directions. This time, both sides were evenly matched. Then the two of them were like two streaks of light, continuously chasing and entangling each other. Occasionally, bursts of rumbling sounds could be heard. This is too amazing! Dogus was dumbfounded. In the past, Mo Yunling was a godlike existence in his heart. But now, he was actually evenly matched with Zichen, who was at the first level of heavenly Dharma. Joshua was also very excited. Originally, when the three of them were together, he was the one with the highest cultivation level. He even said that he would definitely be able to lead the two of them to obtain the immortal essence fragment. Now, Zichen had reached a height that others could only look up to. Die, Titan strength! Mo Yunling's eyes were slightly red, and a terrifying power erupted from his body, drowning Zichen like a huge wave. Zichen retreated dozens of feet, and the golden light of energy shone, blocking all the power outside. He looked at Mo Yunling and said, I advise you to use your full strength quickly, or you will die a horrible death. Humph! Mo Yunling snorted. Today, I will let you, a frog at the bottom of a well, see the power of the Titan tribe. With that, Mo Yunling's aura changed again. Countless streams of air surrounded him, and his body began to expand as if it was filled with air. But as his body expanded, the aura around him became more and more terrifying. At the same time, an inexplicable pressure surged in all directions. The people in the distance immediately felt their breathing become difficult, as if they had seen some kind of natural enemy, and a strong sense of unease grew in their hearts. Mo Yunling transformed into a tall giant, majestic but not bloated, and his domineering aura caused the surrounding space to distort. Zichen felt the obvious pressure, and his expression gradually became solemn. But in the bottom of his heart, there was excitement. If he wanted to refine the immortal technique power in his body for his own use in a short time, he had to rely on external support. Now, Mo Yunling was a rare opponent. Die, Titan Heavy Hammer! Mo Yunling raised his arm, clenched his right hand into a fist, and smashed down through the air. Boundless energy gathered, and like a sledgehammer, the terrifying aura was suffocating. Facing this attack, Zichen did not dare to be careless. He clenched his hands into fists, and crossed them above his head. Heavenly technique power also surged in his body, forming a protective barrier in front of him. The light of the sledgehammer fell, carrying with it a terrifying aura that could destroy everything, and smashed into Zichen's defense. Zichen's golden defense began to distort. Boundless ripples surged out, layer by layer. Zichen's body began to slide back bit by bit. The power of the sledgehammer was terrifying. Break! Seeing this, Mo Yunling's eyes immediately turned cold. His sledgehammer immediately erupted with unparalleled power. The defense was instantly broken, and the remaining power poured down in a majestic manner. Zichen flew back, coughing up blood in midair. You want to challenge me with this little bit of power? Mo Yunling laughed disdainfully. Zichen climbed up from the ground, his eyes fixed on Mo Yunling. Again! At this moment, the immortal technique power in his body had become unusually active. Zichen was cooperating with Mo Yunling's power to refine it. You don't know your place! Mo Yunling laughed angrily, then swung his sledgehammer again. Zichen was smashed into the ground, and everyone heard the clear sound of bones breaking. But when Zichen walked out, the broken bones had already healed. The golden light around him seemed to contain boundless life force that could heal all wounds. He gestured at Mo Yunling and said, "Again." This provocation enraged Mo Yunling, and he swung his sledgehammer again. Crack! Zichen's defense shattered, and he sank into the ground. Everyone heard the clear sound of bones breaking. But when Zichen walked out, he was still intact. Everyone was stunned, and they secretly guessed that Zichen had an undying body, and his injuries could heal infinitely. The same provocation. Mo Yunling roared in anger, and the same attack came a dozen times. But every time Zichen was injured, he could quickly heal. He really had the ability to heal infinitely. "Since you're so resistant, I'll show you the strongest power of the Titan race." Mo Yunling's voice was like thunder. As his voice fell, he raised his hands, and they met in the sky, forming a clenching gesture. The next moment, a glowing sword appeared in his hand. It was a heavy sword, and the sword was like a wall, but in his hand, it didn't seem out of place at all. The surrounding space began to distort wildly, and the remaining energy fluctuations spread out in layers. The clouds in the sky within a radius of 1,000 feet were all crushed. Mo Yunling hadn't really attacked, but his terrifying power had already suppressed the entire place. Zichen felt immense pressure, and he even felt the danger of death. His expression was solemn, and he took out the stone sword. Buzz! Divine runes appeared on the stone sword, and it also released a powerful aura. But compared to the Titan's power, it was clearly much weaker. This didn't mean that the stone sword was weak, but that Zichen's realm was too much lower than his opponent's. "Sword of punishment!" Mo Yunling shouted, and he slashed down with the sword with both hands. A bright light streaked across the sky. Sword Chi fell from above. Zichen didn't dare to be careless at all. The stone sword in his hand was activated, and he slashed toward the sky. Heaven's severing art. At the same time, the severing art appeared and merged into it. This was also considered one of Zichen's powerful moves. Boom! The two sword lights met in the air, and then exploded with a loud bang. Powerful energy formed a shockwave that spread out. The ground under Zichen's feet was shaved off a full layer. Although the heaven's severing art blocked the other party's attack, there was still a surge of sword chi that forcefully entered his body, attempting to destroy Zichen's vitality. One had to admit that this Mo Yunling was really strong. Zichen's body retreated repeatedly, and with every step back, there would be a powerful force that would be channeled into the ground from the soles of his feet, leaving behind deep footprints one after another. All around, everyone exclaimed. This time, both sides collided head-on. But Mo Yunling, who was at the 4th level of Heavenly Dharma Realm, was actually unable to suppress a 1st level of Heavenly Dharma Realm. How is this possible? Mo Yunling's expression also changed, feeling incredulous. His strongest move had actually been blocked. However, his pride all along did not allow him to admit the other party's strength. He roared, "Eat another sword of mine!" Another sword slashed down. Zichen continued to use the heaven severing art, neutralizing a portion of the other party's attack. The remaining attack entered his body. "I don't believe it!" Mo Yunling roared. Following that, another 3 swords landed. Each sword move was stronger than the previous one, as if wanting to tear apart this part of heaven and earth. But after a few swords, other than vomiting blood, Zichen did not seem to have suffered any serious injuries. At this moment, everyone was looking at the unknown Zichen. No one knew where he came from, but he had the ability to fight Titan City's Mo Yunling. In the sky, the sword chi dissipated. Zichen, who coughed out another mouthful of blood, looked at Mo Yunling. "Do you have any other moves? If not, it's my turn to attack." Mo Yunling's gaze was flickering, his eyes cold, and his expression incomparably solemn. One had to admit that this was a troublesome opponent. Not getting a reply immediately, Zichen said, "Looks like you don't have any other moves. Then it's my turn to perform." Zichen stretched out a finger and said, "I'll defeat you in one move." When Mo Yunling heard that, he was stunned for a moment, then laughed loudly. Everyone else was also amused. To be able to block Mo Yunling's attacks again and again, they admitted that Zichen was very strong. But if he wanted to defeat Mo Yunling, that was simply a fool's dream. As for defeating him in one move, it was even more of a pipe dream. But in the next moment, no one could laugh anymore. Because Zichen had broken through again. Chapter 53-41. Zichen broke through realm again. Even though everyone present had already seen this scene many times before. But at that moment, their expressions were still filled with shock. This was not a spiritual technique breakthrough, but a heavenly technique breakthrough. If it were anyone else, wanting to advance one level would probably need to cultivate for dozens or even hundreds of years. But Zichen did not even use the time of a battle and broke through again. The surrounding heaven and earth power formed a huge vortex with Zichen as the center. Close to berserk power poured into Zichen's body frenziedly. Zichen's aura was soaring rapidly. Second level Heaven Dharma realm. And Mo Yunling's laughter also stopped here. He also looked at Zichen in shock, his eyes full of disbelief. No, this is a realm that you originally had. No one can reach such a height in such a short time. Forget about humans, even gods could not reach it. Zichen smiled slightly and said, My true realm is first level Heaven Dharma realm. This is just a breakthrough. Therefore, in order to thank you for your help, I've decided to defeat you in one move. As for whether you live or die, it all depends on your fortune. The reason why Zichen could break through so quickly was due to the immortal technique power remaining in his body. Arrogant to the extreme! Mo Yunling looked down at Zichen indifferently. Zichen held the stone sword in his hand. Activate. Buzz! Patterns appeared on the stone sword, surging out ripples. Zichen started accumulating power. The soul power in his sea of consciousness also condensed into a /character seal at this time, sinking into the stone sword. A powerful aura surged out from the stone sword. This power far surpassed any of Zichen's previous attacks. There was an additional pressure in the air. Everyone felt that they were locked onto by a sharp aura. As if they could encounter a fatal blow at any time. The tall figure that Mo Yunling transformed into also had a drastic change in expression at this moment. Being locked onto by the aura, he felt the threat of death. A cold light flickered in Zichen's eyes. People like you who treat human lives like grass deserve to die. As soon as he finished speaking, his sword rose. It was the heaven-severing technique. Chi. A sharp beam of sword chi soared into the sky, carrying with it the power to split open the world as it flew towards Mo Yunling. A clear mark was left behind between heaven and earth. Mo Yunling didn't dare to be careless. With a shout, he gripped his sword with both hands and slashed downwards. However, this time, his titan power was no longer able to gain the upper hand. Wherever the heaven-severing technique passed, the sword light was split into two, and the long sword also turned into specks of light and dissipated. The sword light swept past Mo Yunling's body. Boom! His tall body collapsed, and when he landed on the ground, he returned to the size of a normal person. There was an extremely long wound on his abdomen, almost splitting his body into two. Mo Yunling was not dead. However, his eyes were filled with fear as he turned around and ran. During this time, his body shone brightly. It was unknown what kind of method he used to preserve his life. The crowd was in an uproar. Mo Yunling, the young lord of Titan City, a famous figure, was actually heavily injured by a second-level Heaven Law Realm cultivator and forced to flee. The other Annihilation Realm experts from Titan City also had terrified looks on their faces. After Mo Yunling escaped, they also wanted to run, but how would they dare to? They were not Mo Yunling, who had the life-saving means of their family. Once Zichen made a move, only death awaited them. Zichen glanced at them indifferently. Call your men and scram! These people turned around and ran as if they had been pardoned. Following that, Zichen looked at the others. All of you can leave too. Everyone retreated upon hearing that, but they were unwilling to leave for a long time. The shock on their faces did not dissipate for a long time. Zichen stepped forward and picked up the spoils of war. Dogus and Joshua were still standing there. However, compared to before, the two of them were very anxious now. After all, the current Zichin was no longer at the first level annihilation realm. Let's go, continue to look for opportunities. Zichin looked at the two of them. The two of them were stunned, as if they could not believe that Zichin actually took the initiative to invite them. What are you waiting for? Zichin walked forward. The two of them immediately followed. Sir, are you really willing to lead us to find opportunities? Dogus asked excitedly. Zichin turned his head and smiled faintly. It's too awkward. Call me Zichin. That's not very appropriate. Zichin had a good impression of the two of them. Living in the wasteland, people with such personalities were rare. Joshua frowned and said, You injured Mo Yunling this time and killed so many people of Titan City. You've completely offended them. They definitely won't let this go. Dogus nodded and said, Offending them will bring endless trouble. Zichun, you should leave quickly. Tell me more about Titan City and that Mo Yunling. Zichen's tone was calm. He was not anxious at all. Next, Dogus told him everything that he knew in detail. Previously, when he talked about Mo Yunling, he was full of admiration and wanted to work for him for free. However, after seeing his character, his attitude changed drastically. Titan City was one of the famous big cities in the North Desert. Only the Mo family had the Titan bloodline. The entire family was very strong. Most importantly, the Mo family had an immortal technique. They were definitely a big force. After listening to Dogus, Zichin nodded. His expression did not change much. Because Titan City was very far from here, Mo Yunling's round trip would take an unknown amount of time. Moreover, he did not believe that Mo Yunling would be able to find the immortal technique after returning. Therefore, he could use the current time to search for storms and find some immortal essence fragments. The remaining immortal technique power in his body could help him break through another realm. The value of immortal essence fragments could be imagined. Not to mention a lot, even if he found 3 to 5 pieces, it would be a huge gain. When the soul power at its peak spread out, the range was more than 300,000 feet. It was like a huge net that covered the surroundings. Those people from before had already dispersed and were searching for their own opportunities. Gradually, Zichin realized that more and more people were coming here. There were even many heaven realm existences among them. In Zichen's perception, a storm appeared. Let's go! Zichin grabbed the two of them and flew forward. When they approached the storm, there were already many people here, and there were even a few heaven realm existences. Zichin put down the two of them and looked at the storm in front, hesitating whether to enter it or not. Chi! A sword light suddenly appeared and headed straight for the storm in front. The huge storm was directly split into two. Swish! 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 The moment the storm disappeared, several rays of light immediately flew forward. These were all heaven realm existences. Zichen's soul power also extended out in an instant. However, he did not sense anything unusual. The person who attacked had already left after the sword attack. It was as if he already knew that there were no immortal essence fragments here. Heaven realm, there are actually so many heaven realm existences. Looking at those existences flying in the sky, Dogus sighed, but soon his face was filled with regret. They had already missed the best opportunity to obtain immortal essence fragments. With the arrival of other powerhouses, it would be extremely difficult for existences of lower realms like them to obtain anything. In the next few days, the three of them discovered a total of 5 storms, but did not find any immortal essence fragments. During this period, Zichin had been sensing the surroundings and did not discover anyone else who had obtained immortal essence fragments. The rarity of this thing made Zichin sweat a little. Originally, he thought that 3 to 5 pieces would be enough. Now, it seemed that even 1 piece was an extravagant hope. Furthermore, in the past few days, there were more and more powerhouses. The heaven realm existences that were once extremely rare were now everywhere. Have you heard? Mo Yunling was almost crippled by someone. Is it that Mo Yunling from Titan City? That's right, it's him. I heard that he escaped back and was almost half dead. The Mo family is furious and has already sent out powerhouses. I wonder who it is that has such great capabilities. Who knows? Perhaps he provoked an existence of a higher realm. While advancing, Zichen heard such discussions. They came quite quickly. In Zichen's original plan, he would leave after finding the immortal essence fragments before the other party arrived. It was just that the difficulty of finding it was beyond his expectations. Now that the people from Titan City were about to arrive, it also meant that trouble was coming. Should he leave or stay? After thinking about it, Zichen still decided to stay. He would take one step at a time. At the very least, he had to get an immortal essence fragment. Zichen, it's you. A voice sounded from behind. Zichen turned his head when he heard the voice. When he saw who it was, he was slightly stunned. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. It was Leonard. Zichen, it's really you. Leonard looked at Zichen and said through gritted teeth, I'm really surprised that you can live until now. There were 3 people standing beside Luaneo. One was Shifeng from back then. The other 2 were very unfamiliar, but they looked very young. Zichen smiled slightly and said, Same to you? I thought a rascal like you would have died 800 times. I didn't expect you to still be alive. Then, Zichen looked at Shifeng again. Shifeng nodded at Zichen, but his expression was somewhat awkward. Although the 2 were on opposite sides back then, Zichen had a good impression of Shifeng and nodded in response. You're courting death. Leonard looked at Zichen with cold eyes. There were 2 young people beside. One of them said, Brother Leonard, you know him? Leonard gnashed his teeth and said, More than just know him, I'm completely irreconcilable with him. He's that devil that I often tell you guys about, who has no bottom line. He was directly expelled by our Magic Soul Alliance because he attacked innocent companions. Oh right, back then, he was also expelled from the Pure Land Alliance. Oh? The 2 people re-examined Zichen. One of them said indifferently, This kind of person who stops at nothing is indeed not worthy of living. The other person nodded and said, I, Lao Wei, admit that I'm not some good person, but I absolutely can't see such a detestable person in the world. It's fine if we don't meet, but when we meet, we'll eliminate evil. Lao Wei walked forward and released his aura. Heavenly Law Level 3 Realm. He looked at Zichen and said in a cold voice, Today, I, Lao Wei, will eliminate evil for the wasteland, lest you harm others again. Zichen's eyes narrowed slightly. Since you want to die, feel free to come up. Humph! Lao Wei snorted coldly and said, Then let me, the possessor of the Titan bloodline, witness your means. He charged straight for Zichen. Lao Wei, quickly retreat. He's the one who injured Mo Yunling. Right then, a loud roar came from afar. What? Lao Wei's expression changed drastically and wanted to pull back. But he was clearly a step slower.